Afternoon. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. If you are hearing the sound of my voice or watching me on any social media platform via Facebook or YouTube, I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your host on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 1 to 4 p.m. Listen, there's a lot going on, lots happening this week, lots that I want to talk to you about, but the first thing that I am going to tackle is this. This is the very last day to register to vote if you're just turned 18, or if you have never registered to vote before. This is the very last day you can do it. May 11th is the last day to turn in to request for your mail-in ballots. I want to make sure that you have all gotten some traction around that. We have been interviewing all kinds of people. Michael Cord is talking about the fact that the judges are the most important right now in this election, and I absolutely agree with him on that. I will be interviewing a cadre of judges on Wednesday afternoon, just so, good afternoon, Gloria Gainey, just so that we can get so people can understand what's going on, who are the people that are going to be standing before you, who want to have these judicial seats, because these elections are incredibly important. And so we're going there. Thank God for Kathy Hicks, who gave me permission to be able to do that. So that will probably be a 90-minute or a 2-hour segment through the Philadelphia Sunday Sun. So I'm starting there. The other thing that's going on is this is Teacher Appreciation Week. If you have children in school, or if you have a teacher who has been an educator who has been amazing, and I know quite a few of them. There's some that my sons had English and science, and they weren't all black teachers either. You know, there are just amazing teachers out here, black or white or of color, that have just really care about what happens to children and have stood in the gap for them, some of them for decades. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to all of you. We know that you are the ones that bring out the future generations out here, and we don't pay you much attention. I wish they treated teachers as well in the United States of America as they do in other countries around the world, because in other countries around the world we see the value and the importance of educators and what they bring to the table for our young people. The other thing is, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so, you know, I'm having so many conversations with people around mental illness, you know, and the fact that it still is a stigma in this country, and people who know that they have mental illness are afraid, you know, suffer from depression, anxiety, you name it, could use some medication, or could use even, God forbid, a therapist, will not go because they don't want to be stigmatized, and that's in every field of endeavor. So we want to make sure that that's happening too for Mental Health Awareness Month. I am going to work diligently to bring people on that will help us to discuss and remove the stigmas that are associated with mental health and mental illness. Lots happening today. So let me just read some of this stuff to you. The phone number is 215-634-8065. I only have 3 guests today on purpose, 1 in each hour, so that I can have time for the WURD listeners. For those of you who have been emailing me, I see your emails. I can't respond to all of them. I see you're emailing me in my Gmail account. I see you're emailing me over at WURD radio account, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I love it, and I love the feedback that I get from you, or even advice on what I may have missed, you know, because I don't know everything, and I'm very clear that I don't know everything. And so I'm just appreciative of all of you. So if you want to call in, 215-634-8065. Let me read a couple of things here for you to get us started. Oh, speaking of Michael Court, local judges' elections more important than higher offices. Michael Court says Pennsylvania's primary election day is May 18th, 2021, and although it's during what's known as an off-year election cycle that features no mayoral, gubernatorial, or presidential contests, it is extremely important. In fact, it is literally more than life or death important. That's because it determines who's going to have direct and immediate authority over you, over what you may do, and over what you may say. Here's how. Unlike a mayor or a governor or even a president, a judge can take your property via seizure, forfeiture orders, take away your children via custody orders, take away your liberty via incarceration orders, and take away your life via death penalty orders. That's some serious power, actually absolute power. Remember what Lord Acton said, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That absolute power gets worse when you factor in the suffocating and ever-present reality of judicial racism as an essential cog in the brutally grinding machinery of American racism. America's laws in general and America's judges, justices in particular, have almost never been a friend to black people and almost always have been and continue to be antagonistic to us. If you think that's hyperbole, consider the following historical and modern-day undeniable facts. Following raids by Europeans, good afternoon, Diana Fassett, good afternoon, Michelle, good afternoon, all of you. I see you here. I'm reading a piece from Michael Court on why the judicial elections are so important. Following raids by Europeans in West Africa, 350 African men, women, and children were forced aboard a slave ship, and approximately 20 to 30 of them arrived shackled in bondage in colonial America at Old Point Comfort, Virginia, on August 25, 1619, where, pursuant to colonial American law interpreted by judges, they were forcibly sold and leased. That was the birth of America's slave laws, better known as slave codes. In 1704, municipal police departments, pursuant to colonial American law interpreted by judges, began as slave patrols. The first official one was in the colony of Carolina, after which this racist policing concept spread throughout the South and the North. As documented by Western Michigan University history professor Salary Haddon in her book entitled Slave Patrols, Law and Violence in Virginia and the Carolinas, the laws creating those patrols deputized civilian white men to engage in the monitoring of rigid pass requirements for blacks, breaking up large gatherings of blacks, searching slave quarters randomly, and inflicting impromptu punishments. Then he goes into 1789 nation's fundamental law, which the U.S. Constitution, which mandates absolute adherence by all judges in every county, colony, state, and territory, not only endorsed slavery, but also promoted it in at least 5 specific clauses. He went into the clause. Then he talks about the 1857 Dred Scott case that everybody seems to be forgetting. The United States Supreme Court, which consists of justices who are the final arbiters of American law, ruled 7-2 that blacks had no rights, which the white man was bound to respect. That was in 1857. By the way, this ruling has never been directly overturned by the Supreme Court, and in fact was actually strengthened by the court's racist slaughterhouse cases, ruling in 1873, despite Congress's passage of the 13th Amendment in 1865 and the 14th Amendment in 1868. Listen to me again. In 1857, the United States Supreme Court, which consists of justices who are the final arbiters of American law, ruled 7-2 that blacks had no rights which the white man was bound to respect. This ruling has never been directly overturned by the Supreme Court and was actually strengthened, in fact, in 1873. Despite Congress's passage of the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment in 1868. Then we had the 1896 Supreme Court legalizes Jim Crow. In 1954, the Brown versus Board of Education didn't really overrule Plessy, and these were all judges. 2013, the Supreme Court kills the Voting Rights Act. In Shelby County versus Attorney General Eric Holder, the United States Supreme Court, which consists of justices who are the final arbiters of American law, invalidated 2 essential pre-clearance sections of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, thereby making it much easier for racist southern states to disenfranchise blacks. In 2016, the Dred Scott ruling is alive and well. Kansas Solicitor General Stephen McAllister filed a legal brief that states Supreme Court justices, citing the aforementioned Dred Scott ruling by the United States Supreme Court justices, to support his reactionary and frightening legal argument in a case entitled Herbert Holds, MD, and Tracy Lynn Nauser, MD, versus Kansas Attorney General Derek Schmidt. He did that because, although he's a racist, he's also a smart lawyer who knows that the Supreme Court has never overruled its 1857 Dred Scott decision. As a result of all of the above, it is indisputably obvious that America's laws in general, and America's judges or justices in particular, have never been a friend to black people and almost always have been and continue to be antagonistic towards us. So if justices have been and continue to be the problem, what's the solution? There are several. One is Just Courts PA, which is a woke and much needed organization created by Black Progressive PAC to educate voters on judicial candidates who embrace movement-supported solutions for black folks. In preparation for the May 18th primary election, especially but not exclusively concerning the one state Supreme Court position, the one state Superior Court position, the 2 Commonwealth Court positions, the 8 County Common Pleas Court position, and the 3 municipal court positions, I will, this is Michael Court saying, in addition to elaborating upon Courts PA's 6-point justice seeking platform, use it as a foundation for my personal election endorsements here in my Tribune column on May 9th, and in his WURD, he runs a WURD radio station courtroom on that same date. So he will come back and tell you who he endorses. He says, stay tuned, stay woke, and remember the profound words of Thurgood Marshall, the only, yes, I said the only, black person who ever served on the United States Supreme Court. Where you see injustice, speak out, because this is your country. This is your democracy. Protect it. Speak out in the voting booths on May 18th and protect black people in the courtrooms every day. That was an article, a piece that was written in the Philadelphia Tribune by attorney Michael Court, who is also a radio show host here on WURD radio. And so it is very important. I keep saying these elections are important. I mean every bit of it, right? So let me see what else is going on here. Let me shut that down, open this up, and see. Thank you to Dee, by the way. She came in this morning and put in all our articles, and I was so happy. Again, by the Philadelphia Tribune. This was written, I don't know who wrote this. I like to give people who write there. Oh, Afia Tucker, Tribune correspondent. The Philadelphia Home and School Council hosted a virtual Fathers Forum aimed at providing a safe space for men to discuss prevalent issues, address their multifaceted roles and responsibilities, in addition to posing a plan to overcome the challenges they face in today's society. As a single mother who strives to raise 4 children in a mental and emotionally healthy environment, I understand how crucial and important it is for children to have both a mother's and a father's voice, said Shakita Gaines, Philadelphia's Home and School Council president. The voices of fathers are needed at PHSC. and PHSC wants to hear from our dads. It is now time to give them the mic, Gaines says. For the first time in its 124 years, the Philadelphia Home and School Council is being led by black women. While this distinction is not lost on them as they lead the nonprofit agency that governs all of Philadelphia's home and school associations, they said that they also understand the importance of supporting fathers and working together to uplift families and ultimately the students they serve. The women put out a call for the Fathers Forum and managed the logistics, but took a back seat in terms of leading the conversation. Amazing. This is good. Prince, how are you, sir?
I am awesome. How are you?
I'm good. I can hardly hear you. Michael, give me a little volume, please. What's going on, sir?
How about now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
You know, that was going to be one of the best commercials. Can you hear me now? You know, so I just wanted to share maybe three things with you and get your opinion. And so I'm not going to be long. I know other folks like to call your show and enjoy, you know, and enjoy you. So SEPTA has a budget for to hire 200 police officers. We've already approved that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
They only have 120 police officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
SEPTA has jurisdiction, city, state, and federal. So if you commit a crime on SEPTA, depending on the crime, they can charge you accordingly, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So why is the Philadelphia Police Department guarding or policing SEPTA facilities? Why can't they be somewhere else where we identify high crime neighborhoods as opposed to being at border colonies? I'm only asking that question because two things need to happen. Either we need to reduce SEPTA budget by 80 police officers, take the money back, or we need to hold SEPTA accountable to get enough police officers at Frankfurt Market, at Somerset Market, and at Border Colony.
Okay, got you.
So why are you asking us and taking our money, and you are not giving us the services that we are in so desperately in need of?
So you're talking about SEPTA and their budget as it applies to the police department, and
yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay. Now you're giving me more homework. I can't take you.
Well,
what else, sir?
So now the second one is, you know, we have a city council person, no names left.
Okay.
And because it doesn't make sense to make names because a lot of them hadn't done their job. So we have a city council person that is trying to pass a resolution that landlords don't have to know if a previous tenant has been evicted. And let me tell you, along with that, she does not meet with constituents without her policy or procedure person. And that's not unusual for most people who are either not as educated for the position or are very new to the position. They try to have the people at the table or in the room. Mm-hmm. But the mere fact that you called this meeting, you should report those people. You don't say, I can't answer questions because my policy and procedure person is not there. You shouldn't have called the meeting without bringing them there.
Right.
And here's one of the biggest issues. If I am someone who worked at UPS and I made it to district manager and I have a few properties in the city, and I may only have a few, not 100, like most folks, I only have a few. So as a landlord, you then had no responsibility for the tenant to put a year's worth of rent in escrow anywhere. And then you put a moratorium on me evicting them. And along with the moratorium, you put you're contemplating rent control. I have to get a bed bug certification. Mm-hmm. You're gonna make me hardwire my smoke detectors in my house, in my residential house.
Oh my God! You know what, Prince? Either I was out in the streets, or someone called me about this very same thing, about the landlords really being held to and let me say this: there's some terrible landlords out here. I get it. I absolutely get it. But for the ones that are out here doing their work, they're having a hard time.
Right. And so now, don't forget the lead inspection. I got to get a lead
inspection. Yep.
Lead inspection.
Was a woman. She told me all of this. Yes.
I pay taxes. I pay trash taxes as part of my city wage taxes, and yet you still charge the landlord to remove their trash.
Wow.
I am saying you are making it for people who have not gone to work, city council people, and for people who really don't have an interest in the residents of Philadelphia. The foot is on our neck. You George Floyd us, in a very, very ridiculous kind of way. We can't breathe because how am I going to pay this? Now I got to pay a mortgage on a house that somebody's living in for a whole year and a half. And that grandma left me the house. I figured that rent would take care of the daughter going to college, and it's not. And so
hold on 1 second, Prince. Let me take a quick break. Hold on, Prince. Let me take a quick break. I have you and I have Maurice from Southwest. So between the two of you, you're about to give me a 1-2 punch, and then I have Asa Khalif coming on right behind all of that. God help me today on this Monday. Hold on 1 second. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Looking for an exciting and well-paying new career opportunity? MCAP is a free manufacturing career accelerator program. In just 7 weeks, learn new career skills, earn industry certifications, and connect to manufacturing companies who are hiring. To see if MCAP is right for you, call 215-770-7101. That's 215-770-7101. MCAP is brought to you by Drexel University's Goodwin College of Professional Studies in partnership with EDSI Incorporated. MCAP is an equal opportunity program. Diverse candidates, including women and people of color, are strongly encouraged to apply.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Livelihood, WURD Radio's new initiative, connecting Black Philadelphians with jobs, entrepreneurship resources, small business development information, and financial literacy tools. Tune in to WURD Radio for our weekly Livelihood segments and every weekday show. For a full schedule, visit WURDradio.com/livelihood. For more information on Livelihood, visit WURDworks.com. That's WURDWORKS.com.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, we just started. And I already have Prince on the line, Maurice from Southwest holding, and I got Asa Khalif coming on. This is going to be an interesting 1 o'clock hour. I can't wait. All right, Prince, let's continue now. So you're talking about what's happening with the landlords.
Right, and the person that's interested, our city council person that's interested in passing all of these or making an attempt for these resolutions or all this stuff right here, is also trying to help a young lady. Now, she's going to help this young lady. She was working on helping this young lady receive certification in marijuana, right?
Okay.
Now, this young lady helped her on her campaign, and she didn't find it in her budget to hire this young lady, right? The problem with this young lady being certified in marijuana is that she lives in public housing. So if you had given her a job and moved her out of public housing, then you can help her get certified like that. But once she is certified in marijuana and has marijuana in a public housing facility, which is federally funded, she's going to be evicted.
Yes.
And so when a city council person doesn't have the wherewithal to understand this, then what else does she not understand? And this is what has happened to us during this pandemic. We haven't had the opportunity, or we've had the opportunity to see the true lack of knowledge that brand new freshman city council people who won the election based on such a low turnout of votes.
Well, Prince, isn't there a training, because I've never been a city council person, isn't there a training that city council people go through? I mean, other than Catherine, who worked under Blondell Reynolds Brown and was her manager, she knows the system really well, right? As a new one coming in. Other than her, what about the rest of them? If there's no training, I don't know. I'm asking.
Right. And so a lot of people who have been in the system understand the system, but Kendrick Brooks don't understand the system. Okay. Isaiah doesn't understand the system. Gautier doesn't understand the system. And so you would leave that on the senior council people to support them in the areas that they may be unfamiliar with. But since this young generation doesn't respect its elders, doesn't want to hear anything or move, in a way where they can get mentored, then I'm here, you here. You can't tell me what to do because, it's no different than the recency between.
Yeah, but Prince, when I ran for school board and won, I sat my tail down and learned everything. I was very quiet. I ain't saying nothing for almost a year. Literally learning all the logistics, making sure I understood what was going on, because I also was very clear that lives are at stake here, that this wasn't just about my sitting there.
Right, I mean, and I see that, and that's you do the same due diligence with your show. And it makes sense to call at this hour. It makes sense that so many people listen. What we're saying is, as a society and as residents of the city of Philadelphia, we just expect the due diligence to be done by everyone. And if it's not, then they need to be called out. And so to my last point, so we elected a sheriff in this city right here. And the sheriff represents the sheriff's department. And every department from an elected position has a spokesperson. So either you have the spokesperson speaking or you have the sheriff themselves speaking. You do not have an employee of 25 years speaking out of turn and disclosing anything in the sheriff's department or his dues, because what happens is that when you classify somebody in a position as a true black man and in all his ways, then the lack of discretion when you're in a position to handle black and white issues become an issue. When you got to go to court and you got somebody touting that you are a real black man and you stand for black power and you stand for this, you might not get called on the event at hand. But once you're in court in arbitration, it's, well, what is his reputation, his character, what is he known as? And that's where, if you're a white skinhead and you don't profess that and you shoot a black guy and we find out that you're a white skinhead, it's because of what you was past associated with that we're trying to prosecute you. Because it could be a good shoot or it may not be a good shoot. But if we don't understand that we are tasked to do a job and everybody has to matter, everybody has to count, and if you let people gas you up as being something and you choose not to represent the job that you have, quit. I don't care if you got 25 years. The guy at the sheriff's department was speaking out of tune the way he spoke. If you want to be a whistleblower, they got ways for you to do that. But you can't be an employee and go and talk about Andrea's show if you're just a soundboard person. You can't. It's just not policy and procedure, because we have a host, and that host represents, just like the sheriff represents the sheriff's department. We elected the sheriff. We didn't elect a 25-year employee who's been there forever. And
so then let me ask you this. So based on
their responsibility.
So based on what you're saying to me, did you reach out to the sheriff's department to have this conversation?
I think it's important that you do, because right now, we went all out to elect people that we thought were going to be in position to support the initiatives of the city. And so in a short period of time, she's been in front of city council. They've been going back and forth. There's been houses that's been sold in the city. We won't see the effects for about 5 years from now. There's been things that have happened, and we have, other than this show, we have no other recourse to say, can y'all explain to us what's actually happening? Don't tell us it's the way to go, it's technology, it was going to happen anyway. No, if somebody buy 1,000 houses at Ford and let's say Cecil B. Moore, then if I'm Haitian, if I'm Vietnamese, if I am Jamaican, then I'm going to change the demographics of that community with 1,000 houses. You know how I know that? Because when the high-rises were up and all of them was 80 or 90% filled with African-Americans, there was a culture in the high-rise building that became a culture because of all the people that had like-minded for all the people that was placed in that environment.
Right.
And so for us not to see this with the amount of houses being dispersed like that, it's just, I'm only asking if we could have some recourse or treat us like we matter.
Okay.
Or stop
All right.
taking
So
taxes
I'm gonna do some digging. I gotta go now, Prince, because Lord, I got.
All right, that's my
Maurice
soapbox. I stand on that. I thank you for taking my call, and have a great day.
You too, my brother. Take it in mind. I got a whole much more work to do. He always had me digging. This is why people think we come on the air from 1 to 4. That's all we do. There's a lot of work, that preparation that goes behind all of this. Maurice, let me take you quickly because I have another guest waiting for me. What's up, sir?
Oh, you ain't gonna take me quickly now. Don't even try it.
Okay.
And whoever you guessed is, they're going to have to wait another segment.
Good afternoon, Maurice, sir. How are you?
Look. The big topic was, for the week, was what Tim Scott said.
Uh-huh.
But Biden and our Vice President, Ms. Harris, said the same exact thing.
I know.
I don't know why we getting all excited calling Tim Scott Uncle Tom when we already knew he was won by the position he had anyway. So I don't know why we want to get all this drama and be all upset when the people we voted for said the same exact thing he said. And no matter how we try to twist it to make it the way they said it seem right, they meant the same thing too. Because all they worrying about is being reelected and also not upsetting white Americans. So they had to say that. That's that political talk. Just like we have a whole lot of Tim Scotts on city council, state reps, senior state senators. They all are the same as Tim Scott. They're not doing, instead of the white people arguing with us, they just pay black people that we put in position to turn their backs on us. It's millions of dollars sent from the federal government here to help Pennsylvania. And then they go to the governor, and the governor dishes it out. And then when we don't get it, the first thing our Democratic so-called black leaders tell us, the Republicans, it's their fault. They're not giving us what we need, but the money has already been issued to the Democratic state senators and the state reps. But somehow it doesn't seem to make it to the people that need it the most. We get fooled by thinking black is right and the white people are doing all this to us when actually it's the black people that we elect is doing it to us. If you walk out your house right now and you say, what has city council done for me? What has state reps done for my neighborhood? And you come up with a big fat zero. There's nothing you can say that's been improved. Cheryl Parker made sure that we got an extra 3 years on the tax abatement when at that time we were arguing we wanted to lower the tax abatement or get rid of it altogether. But they came up with this $400 million plan, and all of a sudden we just hear the number 400 million, and we think somehow that's coming towards us. But what do we got? We got an extra 3-year tax abatement put on, but we're not paying attention. Just like when we ask for reparations, just like you read earlier in your statement about how there's still laws on the books that whatever we say don't count, that we only 3/5 of a person.
Yes.
We don't worry about reparations. Is changing the document.
Right.
The document that the United States is built on.
There you go, Maurice. There you go. It's not 40 acres and a mule, but it's really putting laws in place
that document
that
that
will
says that
benefit
we
us.
have rights just like white people, but we don't pay attention to that. All we thinking about is that large screen TV and that cell phone and some new Snickers. We're not thinking about changing the laws. Why did we're 40% of the city or more? We don't have no hospitality here.
Yes.
People somehow think that having a restaurant is hospitality. No, hospitality is having convention centers, having hotels, having parking lots. So when something big happens in the city, we get our piece of the pie. We don't get anything. We can't even go vend because they sell us a vending permit, and then when we go down there, they tell us, we can't get in.
Yeah.
We keep forgetting about when the Pope came.
So okay, Maurice.
I'm just telling facts, and people are not examining the facts. We got almost an all-black city council, and they done nothing for us. But we sit there, and they stop us from going in there and making a statement to them, because once we stop talking about the bills and their reparations or whatever they're trying to talk about, nonsense, we let it go. We can't call them out. You've been in city council meetings outside in the suburbs. They can call their people out. We're not allowed to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had to go by their so-called rules, but it is not the rules. When we had a guy that was a specialist in the sunshine rules, they shut him down. I'm not talking about Daryl Clark. I'm talking about hosts on this show. They cut him down and don't let people hear how the rules are really, how they really supposed to be. So we're the ones that's keeping us from moving ahead. We talking about our hood and our village, but how we have a hood and a village where we can't even buy our goods and supplies from somebody that look like us? We don't own no stores in our neighborhoods.
Right.
We don't have any goods and services. We can't even sit outside in our neighborhood like white people do and sit outside and eat because we worrying about gunfire or some nonsense, or they tell us a rule with zoning that we can't do it in our neighborhoods, but white people can do it anytime they're out there. They can make money. So we worrying about what's going on right now.
I'm about to go on.
All we got to do is look in the mirror.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Please, people, look in the mirror. This election that's going on right here in a couple of weeks, it's going to be a low turnout because most people don't realize the real election is in May, not in November.
In November. I agree. I'm working hard on it, Maurice, working hard on it. I got to take my next caller. But thank you. All right? Bye. Whoo, Lord, I went from Prince to Maurice, and now I'm going to do Asa. Let me just, this is going to be an interesting hour. I am going to read an article for you, and then Asa and I are going to talk. FOP serves up new weaponing campaign to oust Krasner, free ice cream. Michael D'Onofrio from Tribune staff writer wrote this, that the police union served up its latest political weapon to deny District Attorney Larry Krasner a second term on Friday, free ice cream. The Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 5 brought its campaign against Krasner to the doorstep of his Center City office by parking a Mr. Softy ice cream truck on East Penn Square and giving away free soft-serve ice creams to passerby. An FOP electronic billboard on a truck station nearby said, "Fire DALE Larry Krasner." FOP President John McNesby said he set up the political stunt because the city is not safe right now as shootings and homicides continue to climb higher. Right now, I have in the studio with me Asa Khalif, who is a civil rights activist and someone who has been out on the streets having these kinds of conversations around our rights as citizens in this city. And I was told, sir, that you were out there when the ice cream truck was there. So tell the WURD listeners what happened, please, from your vantage point.
Well, first of all, it's good to see you, sis.
You're doing
you too.
It's been
you know what I'm saying? It's been a very good minute. I'm glad to see you. I'm still listening, even though I'm in the trenches.
I hear you. Thank you, my brother.
You're doing a good job, my sister.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, first, as an activist for decades now, it seems, in this city, I'm old school, and I was raised by a lot of my mentors who are no longer with us, their ancestors, and we were taught confrontation and calling out BS when we see it. And so, I haven't taken a official, as a lot of many people will know, I endorsed Larry Krasner's first run. I have been focusing on with other activists in our committee to make sure that we push our judges. So I thought that was the main thing that we needed to really concentrate along with the district attorney's race, which are both equally important. I will make my decision in terms of my endorsement on this Friday. But I was sitting back, Sister Andrea, and it just went right up my spirit. Now, I haven't brought that bullhorn out in over 2 years.
Oh, I know, because I was like, what?
I've been working behind the scenes with my young people. I call them my kids. And so they pretty much have taken on the bullhorn, and I love working behind the scenes. But I think this election is way too important at this point for the foolery and the nonsense and the circus that the FOP, John McNesby, and his minions tried to put on. If you want to have a serious conversation about criminality, if you want to have a conversation about soft law and crime or crime period, then let's talk about accountability along with those conversations. And so you cannot hold individuals in our community, citizens in Philadelphia who break the law and commit violent crime accountable, and they should be held accountable 100% without making sure that your killer cops are held accountable also. The cops that killed David Jones, the cops that killed Niza Morris, a transgender woman of color, the cops that killed my cousin Brandon Tate Brown, and so many others, Dennis Plowden Jr., Dante Dawson, I can even go back there. And it's just over and over. The cops that murdered the Move family. I mean, we could just go on and on about police violence in Black and brown neighborhoods and on Black and brown people. So if we're talking about accountability all across the board, make sure you include your killer cops. And so that, when I saw that spectacle, it just went right up it just went in my spirit, so to speak, and I just had to make sure it wasn't really publicized that much, only on the conservative stations that we don't really listen to. And I just think that the ancestors had to be represented that day. Someone had to come down and call them on their BS. And, and thank God also for my 3 white allies who were right there filming to make sure that we were good. But they needed that blowback. They needed that blowback to call them on their hypocrisy. You're going to vote for whoever you want to vote for. And I tell people, that will be your decision, but you better make sure that you do your homework. The legendary Miss Mary Mason would always tell us to have a scorecard. And so you rock with people that rock with you and your community with a history of that. Anybody that's associating themselves with Donald Trump and anybody that's associating themselves with white supremacist police officers, that's someone I don't want to rock with. That's someone I clearly don't want to ever vote for. My grandmother wasn't a college educated woman, God rest her soul, but she always would say birds of a feather flock together. And if you want to know the measure, the character of a man or woman, look at their friends.
Hold on one second, Asa. Let me take a quick break because you and I are going to talk about this DA race and what you see and what your opinion is. I know you're not endorsing anybody till Friday, but let's talk about this, all right?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, hold on one second. You're welcome. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Between family dinners, bedtime stories, and study sessions, Pico knows that life never stops moving. So if you need help paying your energy bills, there are financial programs available, like the Customer Assistance Program, or CAP, that offers a monthly credit that can lower your gas and electricity payments. Learn how Pico can help keep your life moving with CAP. See if you qualify at pico.com/CAP.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
WURD family, the Go to Know campaign for colon cancer is up and running. Go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. It's that simple. Click Go to Know and get your test today.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have on the line with me Asa Khalif, who has been an activist for a long time, who had I thought had dropped his bullhorn, only to hear that when the FOP Lodge Number 5 went out to Larry Krasner's office, the district attorney's office, to offer up softy ice cream because they said he was soft in crime, Asa pulled up with his bullhorn, and I said, oh, we've got to talk. So what did you find when you went out there, Asa?
Well, I found a bunch of police officers, for the most part, having a show, which was really on taxpayer dollars, on our dime.
Were they in uniform?
Some were in uniform, some were in plain clothes. Mostly the ones that were in uniform were towards the back. So I guess once the media came and McNesby wanted to do his commentary, and give his little talking points, it would look very bad to have police in uniform there, because they should be patrolling our streets. That's what we pay them for. But it was plainclothes police officers, a lot of detectives who I recognize who have arrested me and other activists. Some officers were just there, just casually making a mockery of it. And my point is, Sister Andrea, it doesn't matter, again, you're going to vote for who you want to vote for. A lot of people that I've spoke to have made their minds made up already, and we pretty much have our minds made up based on our experience and our research. But I think that was a wasted opportunity for the FOP. If you truly wanted to have those conversations again about criminality, or if you wanted to mend some of the hurt that generationally have been caused in this city and in our community, that time should have been actually going into the communities, coming out of your cars, having conversations with activists in that community, having conversations with block captains in that community and seniors in that community, and listening and hearing their concerns, and children and their concerns. Because our young people have, their own opinion based on the violence that they've been exposed to. That should have been a time to really go and really try to offer an olive branch. But you chose to use that time, on our taxpayer dollars to, flaunt your vendetta against Larry Krasner. And this is bigger than Larry Krasner. We're talking about reform.
Right. That was my question that I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
This seems to me like the perfect storm. Larry Krasner is a district attorney now, but whoever was the district attorney in this spot at this moment in time in history, in our country, was going to face some of what we see Larry Krasner going through right now.
Absolutely.
And here's the other thing. There's talk that Larry Krasner is soft on crime. Now, why do you think that this district attorney's race is so heated? Why are the police officers so intent on what has not happened, or what has happened that made them so intent on removing Larry Krasner from this position that he's in right now?
Because in my opinion, he's a true reformer, and he is a true ally to Black and brown people. Larry Krasner, there has never been a police officer prosecuted under Lynn Abraham, under Seth Williams. I believe this was the first time that even the police officers who were involved in the MOVE bombing, in the MOVE assassination, were never charged. So Larry Krasner came in and he kept his campaign promise on that he would hold police officers accountable, and they should be held accountable because they're held at a higher standard. And so he kept that promise. And they realized that they didn't have a yes person. They didn't have a yes man or a yes woman. They didn't have a killer DA like Lynn Abraham. They didn't have someone who was corrupt like Seth Williams. They didn't have a puppet. They had someone who was coming in to clean house. And when you clean house, you clean it from the bottom up, and you clean house unapologetic. And so they can't buy him. They can't bribe him. Is Larry Krasner perfect? Absolutely not. Do I have my issues with Mr. Krasner? Absolutely. And I've told him that through his face. He's not perfect. We're not electing the creator. We're not electing Jesus Christ. We're not electing Allah. We're electing a man, a human being with flaws. But if you look at the record, if you look at the history of his allyship with Black and brown people, if you look at the message of his progressive message that he has said countless times and have not wavered on that, then that's something that has to be taken in consideration. it's not about being anti-police. It's about holding people accountable. And if you have a license to kill, like the police, with a badge and gun, they can walk into your house right now while you're on air. They can walk into my house while I'm interviewing with you. And they have that power to come in and arrest you and literally kidnap you from your home and incarcerate you. And they have a license to kill. So with that much accountability, with that much power comes accountability. And so the hypocrisy of it, which made me very angry and others, was the fact that, again, if you're serious about having conversations on criminality, if you're serious about, you want to call people out on soft on crime, then you have to call yourself soft on crime, which are killer cops with a history of murdering and abusing Black and brown people in this city.
Where do you think the police commissioner fell in all of this? Do you think she was aware? Because she's been challenged quite a bit too. Like she walked into the middle of this stuff too. We had violence in the city when she came here. We had people expected, because she was a Black woman and we had Black leadership, that she should have been the savior, like you're talking about, Asa. But everything comes over time, and we can't solve everything right away.
No.
I just feel like there's a combination of things happening here that created this perfect storm, because the violence is still out of control in this city. Let's just talk about it.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And, and I think Commissioner Outlaw would not have been my first choice. I know Black women in the police force, lieutenants, captains, who actually have a history of working in our communities, who know everyone on the block by first name basis and have that respect, even if they're in uniform. I think I could name 3 Black qualified women with a history of relationships in our communities that could have taken that spot, but they chose Commissioner Outlaw. Her first mistake was that she met with a racist bigot her first day here, which was McNesby, the head of the FOP, and she disregarded the invitation to meet with Black and brown activists who actually wanted to, verbalize our concerns and see, could we reach some sort of common ground with her, working together. The only way we're going to solve this is we're going to have to work together, period. The community, the activists, the ministers, the politicians, everyone, the district attorney, everyone is going to have to pull their weight for this gun violence. And another thing, Sister Andrea, real quick, her issues, and it's clear now, you can see it, you can't hide it, she can't hide it anymore, but she clearly has an issue with the district attorney. And I think that's a very wrong move.
That is the first time I am hearing that, Asa.
Oh, absolutely. It's you can see the spirit that's driving her against Mr. Krasner. She has played and believed into that narrative that they tried to paint on him. And I think if you really want to have, again, honest conversations about criminality and gun reform and violence in our city, you have to include everyone at that table to have those conversations. And when you have press conference and don't include the district attorney, I think that was a very bad move on her and a very poor decision on her part.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Asa.
Yes.
You're clearly out of retirement.
They brought me out. They brought me out.
In a couple of years, I'm like, that is a blast from the past.
2 years. They brought me out. But I think it's important, Sister Andrea. And again, I would like to tell your listeners, please make sure when you vote, make sure you vote in your best interest, because this election will have serious effects generational.
Yes, I agree with you. I've been talking about this election ad nauseum, just really trying to get people
keep
to
talking
pay
about
attention.
it, Sister Andrea.
I'm going to. Today's the last day for them to register to vote.
Yes, it is.
The 11th is the last day for them to register for a mail-in ballot. And I tell folks, I don't endorse folks. Michael Cord will do his on Sunday. I'm sure he'll do some endorsing. But sitting in the spot that I am in, I don't endorse force. But what I do is I open up the door, Asa, for people to see who these folks are, to talk to them,
absolutely,
where they are, and to listen. I did invite Carlos Vega and his people to come on, so we'll see, but I think they're working on something at WURD, so that may work out in its own, because I've had conversations with District Attorney Krasner, not around the election, but like you, have had serious conversations with him, and he's listened. It hasn't always been peaches and cream, but he heard me, right? And I'll say XYZ, and again, I wasn't expecting him to be perfect, but when things didn't work out properly, you know, and I called on him. He was like, "Okay, I heard you. I got it. I got
Yes,
it." Right?
exactly, exactly.
So we have to pay attention. So I want the constituents now to get to know Mr. Vega. Right? I'd like for people to get the same opportunity so that they can make up their mind and make their decisions. Because you're right, lots of people already made up their minds, one way or the other. But for the people who are straddling the fence trying to figure out what they're doing, for the people who are saying, well, we have so much crime here and all of this is going on, we have to give them both sides, right? That's just really the fair thing to do. Thank you so much, my brother. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure, my sister.
Yes. And
we'll hang soon. We'll hang soon when COVID's lifted.
I hope so. Probably when something comes out open, but we'll be fine. Talk to you soon, my brother.
All right, my sister. Talk to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and we will be right back after these messages.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for May is Living in Color by Tommy Davidson. Be sure to listen live, as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, May 11th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit WURDradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
Richard Allen Preparatory Charter School is proud to be celebrating 20 years serving Philadelphia students. We are a public charter school serving grades 5 through 8 and located in Southwest Philadelphia. We are committed to serving the entire child and are dedicated to preparing children to be successful in school and in life. We are now accepting students in 5th grade and taking waiting list applications in other grades. Apply at www.applyphillycharter.org. You have a right to choose. Choose greatness. Choose Richard Allen.
From safe to seamless, convenient to contactless, and local to express, SEPTA is the Philly way to go. Plan your trip at iseptaphilly.com.
This is WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, we're now in the 2 o'clock hour. We had conversations with WURD listeners, Prince, Maurice, and then I interviewed activist Asa Khalif. We were talking about what was happening in with the Philadelphia FOP, this upcoming election with the district attorney's race. And so there's so much that we need to dissect. In Philadelphia, May 18th, you might as well say, is our election. Whoever wins on May 18th in this democratic city is usually who wins in the November elections. And quite frankly, we need to spend more time having conversations with people about what this means for us, right? Emotional intelligence is really key right now. There's a lot happening in this city. Racism and bias happens everywhere. This is not just a Philadelphia thing. And what I would love to see is more leaderships amongst all of us, that we stand up in our leadership stances and stop being so singularly and myopic in our focus and look big picture and come back down and drill from the small ends going out so we can support as many people as possible. We have to also stop looking at black people when we put them in office and think that they're going to be our saviors. We have to hold them accountable too in their leadership. Oh, Lord. Here we go. And now I got Gary and George. All right, Gary, how are you, sir? What's going on?
I'm fine, Andrea.
What's going on, sir? There's so much going on in this city today. I don't even know what to tell you.
Well, I want to let me say my little piece.
Okay.
I have to go behind Maurice and brother Asa Khalif, who I've been in his company several times. And I really love those brothers because they speak the truth. And it's time that we start speaking truth and holding people accountable. And who I'm talking about is the black elected officials in this city who are not really servicing us to the degree, or if at all, as they should. And as a result, our communities are suffering. When we talk about gentrification, I hear people all the time talking about they want to get out of Philly and move out. Now, here's the bigger plan. Once we get out, they're going to improve everything in the city. You see it going on now. Go use Google Philly 2035 and see the plans they have for Philadelphia. Okay? They don't care about the black people in this city, and that's just the honest to God's truth. And until we start holding these elected officials accountable, and the black ones in particular, we're going to keep getting the same thing. And it's time for new blood to run for office that we can support and feel confident with. You know, man, that brother Asa Khalif, man, he really has love for our people. I mean, he's serious, and he's strong, and he's about what he says. Andrea, we as black people, if we don't wake up and smell the coffee and make the changes we need to make, they have no good intentions for us in this city, in this state, or in this nation for us that our ancestors built. Andrea, we got to get real here. It's time to stop playing around, you know, naming streets after people who bombed the Move family. And that's close to my heart. I was at the Move press conference. I grew up with Michael Africa. I saw these things going on. The bombing down there, or they ransacked the house on Poughton Avenue and bulldozed it to cover up all the evidence. Andrew, it's just too much. We have to stop being distracted. And I'm going to talk about entertainment, sports, and all that. We're all tied up with that. We better worry about or be concerned about what they're doing to us. They don't care about our children. They don't care about us. And I just have to leave on that note because I could just go on and on. Thank you, Andrea.
All right. Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. We have a lot going on. I can't even deny it. George, what's going on, sir?
How you doing, Andrea?
Child.
You know, be careful what you ask for, and be careful who you have at the table negotiating for you. And, you know, believe me, because they're your color, they're not your kind. And I ain't got to talk about black folks. Black folks talk about themselves. I only talk about what people do that's in black and white. You know why I like Curtis Jones? He's the only council person that has two districts. He got the 3rd councilmanic district, and he got the 4th councilmanic district. You know why? He helped a person get in there that's too stupid to be in there. Kendrick Brooks, right? Take her, for instance. She was on welfare all her life. Not to say that it was bad.
I was just going to say, being on welfare is a bad thing?
No, it's a good thing. She got food stamps, she got free medical, she got everything. She was a welfare activist, whatever you want to call it, and I don't knock that. But she went from welfare to $135,000 a year job, which is good, but at least know the job. She don't even know the job. She just goes and mumble. You ever see her on the thing? She be mumbling. They have to correct her on stuff. She put bills in. Her staff is stupid.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So then she should have staff around her that can give her what she needs to know, because she's still brand new. That's a lot to learn in a short period of time, George.
No. This ain't no on-the-job training job.
Yeah, but most people, but George, wait, George, wait.
Everybody, we always want to make excuses for them.
No, this is not an excuse, George. George, listen to me. Anybody that's running for these kinds of political offices, most time don't know the full job before they get in, right? So most people are learning. Even the police commissioner, she comes from a different place. She comes here. Philadelphia is very different. So you're learning on the job. We have to learn. What I am saying is there has to be people around her that are smart enough to say, this is what the law is over here. This is what we're doing in HB whatever. This is what, you see what I'm saying? So she can learn. And listen, I'm not friends. Kendra Brooks and I are not friends. I'm just saying, when someone is brand new and has never been, to your point, she has been an activist who got over there.
Do you understand how city council works?
No, I do not. I got to tell you, I don't know.
They have a thing called a technical staff that put your bills together. You tell them what you want, and they put it together. It ain't like your staff got to sit there and put it together.
Right.
Everything you want is at your disposal, so there's no reason for you to be stupid. Okay? Outright, it's just like, that's just ignorant, just stupidity, okay?
So then what would you like for her to do, George? All right, so what would you like for her to do?
Any legislation you want, they got a technical staff that puts it together, then the solicitor's office look over it to make sure it's airtight and legal. That's the way it works in city council. Period.
Okay.
Now, you can't make no excuse for she got a sorry staff. She's just as bad as Gautier. Those are two idiots that we put in there. It's really three. But they're incompetent because they don't listen, and they got their own agenda, which is white folks. They do exactly as they're told. They're the good Negroes, okay? And now I said their names, and I put them out there. Prove me wrong. All you got to do is look at their legislation. Don't believe it? Go to the chief clerk's office and look at all the dumb. Oh, that's right. Curtis Jones is her boss. So maybe Curtis is just as stupid as she is. Gautier. He's her boss. She do exactly what he tells her to do.
Okay, so someone here, Sally Brown, says that you seem to condemn black women all the time. Is that true?
Well, they can say what they want, but it's in writing. They condemn themselves. I don't condemn. I just tell the truth.
Well, the only thing I ask you to do, George. The only thing I ask you to do,
put a black woman there and nobody can talk about them, then they could be the most incompetent person in the world.
Got it.
The rule is you can't talk about black women because she's black.
Well, the only thing I ask you is not to name call, right? Don't call people stupid. Just give your points, you know, like Prince does. We give our points, and Maurice, give your points, but don't call them stupid, man, because, you know.
Okay, we'll call them incompetent. Is that good?
That's better. It's better than stupid.
But I just like to call it for what it is. People understand better when you say what a person is. Those elected officials do not like to be called out. They do not like you to call their name. Everybody want to be in secrecy. I ain't got to be in secrecy. What I say to their face. You know why? Right. Because I tell their boss what they are. If they're the number before one, that's what they are. They got there because their boss made a deal to get them there, okay? Curtis Jones made a deal to get Gautier there, and she's owed all her allegiance to him, okay? Now, is she qualified for the job? No, but the people in West Philly were stupid enough to go for the gag and got bamboozled, and now they don't have anything. Everything in West Philly is going to the dogs. Where black folks had everything in the city, jobs and everything, now they don't have nothing. They're losing everything. Now they're losing Southwest Philly. So don't tell me about any of them because it's in writing. Everything I say is in writing. I don't sit up here and just go saying things just to say it. I don't have nothing better to do. I just try to inform people of what they are, a bunch of incompetents. Now, we got other ones there I can talk about, too.
Please don't.
We can talk about them, but I know you don't have the stomach for it.
So let me ask you this, George. Let me ask you this. What is the recourse? What can we do, other than fussing and complaining about these folks all the time? What is the recourse, George?
Andrea, everything we ever talked about on this show, somebody called and I found out they were serious and they had a problem. You know what they call you back and say, that problem got taken care of. You know why? Because I will make a call to that council person or that state rep and say, listen, they was talking about such and such on the radio. Now, you're going to straighten it out. I got to go to your boss. Oh, don't do that, dear. We'll talk about it. And you know what it do? If I'll call the commissioner of that department or whatever and get it done. I mean, I've been around too long not to know how this game is played. You know, I'll sit and listen. Just like all these black folks is not going to come out election day to vote for Larry Kraft.
Oh, these black folks are coming out to vote on election day. I don't care who they vote for.
Well, let me ask you this, Andrea, since you said, and I'm a Krasner fan. I'm a big supporter of him. But had that guy that did George Floyd, had he got walked away, people would be in uproar. They would be voting registration. How many people was registered to vote this time? They had the lowest voter registration thing this time than they ever had.
Okay, so George, so here's the thing. I need to get to my next guest, but I'll need you to do me a favor. Get Commissioner Sabir or somebody from, because we've been trying to get folks on here to talk about this election. The primaries are around the corner.
To come, Andrea, don't you understand? They're to avoid you. Their boss is telling them.
Well, then guess what?
Either you in or you out. Andrea, they'll talk to everybody but you because you want to know. You want answers. The rest
and I do. And so if they don't want to give me answers, then they need to stay off of the show.
They're ducking you, okay?
That's fine. Let them duck me, because if they don't have the answers, then I don't need them on
the
here.
Election, and if they come, they got a bunch of lies that their boss already told them to say. I'm telling you, you don't want to hear it, but black folks better come out and vote, which they're not, because look at it. You didn't hear anybody advocating for Larry. You know why? The FOP got a ton of money. They're saying, look, this is what you're going to get on Election Day. We're going to give you that now. This is what we're going to give you for Election Day just to sit there. That's it. Everybody's getting a thing they call a ching-ching, a check. Okay? That's all they're interested in is a few dollars.
All right,
You
George.
don't understand how this city works.
So
Don't
you're
get
right.
money
So
and money
I am
gets
learning. I am absolutely learning, George. And what I got to go take my next guest. I got to do
Absolutely.
that. But I am going to listen. What we have a saying in Jamaica: "Wanna catch Kwaki, catch him shut." And we'll figure that out in a little bit. Talk to you soon, my brother. Take it easy, okay? All right. Bye bye. All right, so my next guest is Tracy L. Hunt, who is president and CEO. She's a skilled HR professional, author of a book called Silent Overcomer. She has provided key leadership in senior level roles as well as driving HR strategies through board membership as committee chair. Let me see. Her thing is long. She just started Total HR. Her last internal role was Chief Human Resources Officer for Bancroft, a leading nonprofit organization providing behavioral health services. Prior to that, she was the VP of Human Resources for the Philadelphia Coca-Cola Bottling Company. But today we're going to talk about her book. She's author of this book called Silent Overcomer. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. It's so nice to be with you again.
Listen, the WURD listeners are very opinionated, right? And so I was trying to take their calls, and I knew I had you in the waiting room. I said, Lord have mercy, poor Tracy. But I figured you would understand. So this is perfect, right? May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Okay.
And you wrote a book called Silent Overcomer. Tell people all about the book.
The book was written really because there's a lot of silent overcomers out there. And oftentimes we do just that. We suffer in silence, and we overcompensate, and we, just keep suppressing and moving our way through, not recognizing that we're dealing with some real trauma.
Yes.
And the book is really designed to have people give themselves permission to say, okay, my trauma is real trauma. Just because I may not have the trauma that's the same as someone else's, there's no reason to minimize or marginalize those things that have been affecting me and affecting how I show up, right, and preventing me from being my best self.
Right, right. So what prompted you to write this book? Because you're clearly successful in all your endeavors, right? What prompted you to write this book and now?
What really prompted me was recognizing the challenges that I went through in the continual process of overcoming, and not recognizing that I needed to really stop and reframe these things that were making me have to feel like I was pushing water uphill. And so a lot of times if we stop and then compartmentalize things in a way where it's more palatable to deal with, instead of attempting to take it all on at once, that was really my motivation for writing the book in the format that I did, so that people can recognize when the trauma occurred, how to reframe the trauma in that period, because everything's compounding. I said this on another show. We like compounded interest when it has to do with our money, but when it comes to trauma, we don't want to, nor is it good to, keep allowing things to compound. So deal with things in the space that you need to deal with them, and then close that compartment and move on.
Right, but so, okay, your trauma, based on your story, comes up through your own mother, right? I am having conversations with people who have just, in fact, oh gosh, so much is going on. I just lost a friend of mine who died suddenly. And how she and I met was when she was talking about some trauma she had as a child growing up into adulthood. And I'm having conversations with other people who are saying the same thing, that those childhood traumas, just when we can't deal with them, then when we don't deal with them, when we don't know how to deal with them, they manifest into something else. They you either push yourself into becoming completely successful like you did, or they fall apart, or they're somewhere in the middle, And so talk a little bit about just a little snippet, because we don't want you to get into the whole book, of what you had with your own mother that led to you becoming the successful woman that you are, despite all the things that you went through.
It's really interesting you say that. I had a mother who, again, was the best mother she knew how to be. And most of us, it's really important to forgive. That's number one.
Yes.
Because you won't be able to overcome in a space of resentment and still being hurt. For me, it was really important to make sure that I was writing the book from a place of healing. And for me, it was always recognizing the fact that education was key. I had to hold on to those things that I knew were going to catapult me to the levels of success that I felt were important. Now, everybody has a different definition of success. And so we don't want people to believe, I don't want people to believe that you've got to become some high-powered executive, you've got to become in the elitist of whatever profession you're in to be deemed having been successful in overcoming your trauma.
Right.
Next level of being healed and whole, to be able to live unapologetically in your truth, is where I want people to go. I don't want you to feel like success or titles and all that define us. And that was a real eye-opener for me when I talk about going from the VP of HR for one of the most well-known brands in the world to now being an entrepreneur and, you know, saying, okay, now I'm president of what? One? So it was so important to me to take a step back and look at how do we really define success?
Right. And so what are some tips you'd like to leave for people, and tell them where they can find the book, please?
So you can go on Amazon. Amazon, you can just go in, put in Silent Overcomer. And again, it was designed to be a very quick read. If you want to hear anything more about the book, you can always go onto my website directly. It's my name, Traceell, T-R-A-C-E-E-L Hunt, www.traceellhunt.com. And you can read about me. You can find out how I can speak, you know, in whatever setting that might be for a keynote. But for what's really important is that you get the book. Because again, going on my website, you can pay a little more and have it be a signed copy. I've done a lot of signed copies. Going on to Amazon. But for me, what was important for me to write this book was it took me 30 years to get to a place of feeling healed and whole. Why should it have to take someone else 30 years? Right. Because operating from a place of overcompensation, there's no liberty in that. And there's liberty in transparency. At the point that you are living your life in a very transparent way, it gives you the opportunity to go to next level, because I heard someone say that you can't really live at your highest level until you get real with yourself. And there's another thing that stood out for me recently. Someone said to me, and I think it was said in a negative way. You know, everybody's got haters, right?
Right.
So I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and I felt like one of her friends was a little bit of a hater, because when I talked about liberty and transparency, she said, oh yeah, you finally had to take the mask off. I'm going, whoa. You know what was interesting to me? The mask is invisible to the person wearing it.
Yeah, come on.
Most of us don't realize we even have a mask on. We're operating the best way we know how. At the point that we get healed and whole, now we recognize that there was a mask that we didn't even realize was there. So people who want to be judgmental will want to make it seem like you have a mask, but you don't realize you have a mask.
Yes.
The mask is only invisible to us.
And it's protective, right? It's a protective thing that people
It's a
wear,
protection mechanism.
which is why when I see the mask that people wear, when I see it, I am not unkind. I'm just not mean or unkind to them. I see it for what it is, and I operate with them a little bit differently, but I treat them well anyway. Does that make sense? Right?
It makes sense. What happens, though, a lot of times is we don't realize you may have a mask of your own. So we all are walking around to be able to discern somebody else's mask, not realizing we got a mask of our own. So remember, I said the mask is only invisible to us.
Absolutely. But I also have to tell you this. When you live in a place of transparency, and someone said to me, why do you share so much? I share a lot. For me, I have to tell you what is happening, what's going on. You know, when I was diabetic, I talked about it. When this was going on, I talked about it. Colonoscopy, talk about it. Because that transparency helped me not only to help other people, but it helped me. right?
That's exactly
as I'm moving
right.
through. And so the more we clamp up and the more we feel like only certain people should know certain things is when we start to have these different facades. I don't have to, it's too much energy to have 5 different facades going on at one time. It really is.
It's way too much work. And as I said, the freedom you get when you don't have to worry about what you said over here, what you said over there. And for me, it wasn't about telling different stories.
Right.
It was about feeling less than because I didn't have the typical domestication or the upbringing and the loving mother that everybody else had.
Right.
So for me, it was constantly wanting to be at the next level and feeling like I couldn't have anything wrong with myself. So hair had to be perfect, clothes had to be perfect, dialect had to be perfect. Everything had to be perfect because coming from a space of insecurity and feeling a low self-worth, because who's the person that matters most? Your mother.
Yes.
In most cases. So my grandmother was my glimmer of hope that gave me self-esteem. But when you're already operating from a space of rejection, I was constantly wanting to not have to feel that feeling of rejection. So I was constantly making sure that I had everything in place, or so I thought.
Right, right. And so the more you did, the more you wanted to achieve, because it was another level of, wow.
It was a level of proving that I was going to be more than what you thought I would be.
Yes. Well, I am going to take a quick break. Hold on one second for me. When we come back, I want to talk to you about what made you move into entrepreneurship, and we'll tell people again how to find the book. Okay?
Awesome.
All right. Hold on one second. All right. It is now 2:21 p.m. and the temperature is 68 degrees. Dr. Ken Scott, president of Beach Companies, reminds everyone to support Black people and Black businesses 365. Please view and download the free 2021 Black Business Directory and Community Resources Directory at beachcompanies.com. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Dr. Ken Scott, president of the Beach Foundation, is reminding all minority high school seniors and current students that will be attending Community College of Philadelphia, Cheney, Lincoln, and Temple universities can apply for the annual Beach Scholarship. The deadline has been extended to the end of May. Apply online at beachcompanies.com and look for the scholarship tab.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
If you're feeling down or feeling blue and want someone to help you process it all, let's talk with Yolanda. She's not only a social media motivational speaker, she's a psychotherapist by trade and certified in prolonged exposure therapy for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. If you need counseling or seeking a life coach, contact Yolanda Novoa, 267-574-4632. Let's talk with Yolanda. She can be seen on Facebook and YouTube.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, I have Tracy L. Hunt, who is president and CEO of Total HR, who has a brand new book called The Silent Overcomer, which can be found on Amazon. She and I are having a conversation now around overachieving, you know, putting all these things in place when, you know, we have dealt with traumas as children. And so my next question for her was this: what made you walk away from those promising HR positions that you had, those big positions, to become an entrepreneur? Because I want people to understand that you don't, your role shouldn't define you, right? That you can move on and do different things. Explain to folks, why are you doing this now?
Well, it was really important for me when you work for someone like Coca-Cola. When you're in that leadership team space, it's not about refining you as an HR leader. It's about refining you as a business leader. So I began my career as an accountant, so I'm very astute at understanding numbers, the profit and loss, the balance sheet, and so recognizing that I could work for someone else for the rest of my life, but would I really be building wealth on my own? And so watching how that value proposition works, acquisitions and divestitures, and it was about, okay, so I didn't want to walk away from my passion, which was HR, but after sitting on enough boards of directors and, understanding how the business cycle works, I said, wow, there's a market for small to mid-sized companies to have access to high-level HR solutions that are scaled back to meet their individual and unique needs. So recognizing there was a market for that, that's hence the birth of Total HR Solutions, was a way for me to create a business, work in the space of my passion, and build some wealth for myself. Now, of course, it's a process. It's always growing and moving, and it's living and breathing. So, but it's very rewarding in the end.
Because you're building your own, I hear you, bringing your own wealth. All right, so how much is the book, and where can they find it again?
So the book is $24.95 on Amazon. If you want to have a signed copy, it's available at tracylhunt.com for $34.95. And of course, they get out pretty much almost as quick as the ones do that are on Amazon. But again, I think it's really important that readers also recognize that at the end of every chapter, I give them the opportunity to identify with their own trauma. So it's a book that's not just have you read about my trauma. It's a book for me to help you connect with your trauma that's probably not been dealt with, that could be holding you back.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's always a pleasure. This is our second time having a conversation about this. I wish you so well as you move forward in this. So it's Tracy L. Hunt, TRACEEL Hunt.com. And the book is on Amazon, $24.95 on Amazon, $34.95 if you go on her website and you want it signed. Is there any other way people can reach out to you if they want to talk to you?
Just go to tracylhunt.com and you can reach me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, any of those platforms.
All right, Miss Hunt, always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Let's see now. Lord, this is so much going on, and so many authors. We have so much going on. Traumas that we don't deal with, as Ms. Hunt was talking about, and then you'll read that in her book. She wrote about her own traumatic story and feeling rejected from her mother, her biological mother. But I am surrounded by people who just will not deal with their traumas. And I have this conversation all the time when I talk to my three sisters every Sunday at a certain point, and we talk about things that happened to us in our childhood. We talk through all of it. One child saw it this way, one child saw it the other way. But the beautiful thing was that we talk about what it is that was going on with us at that time. And so we have a safe space to deal with it. We also invite our children to constantly come and talk to us about whatever is going on in their heads, because what might not look like trauma to you and me might be trauma to someone else, right? And so we have to be very careful not to diminish people's traumas, and we also have to be very careful not to let them live steeped in it. So the ultimate goal is to go through the trauma, find ways to manage through it, and do what you need to do. Linda Shields says, the mail is slow and going to get even slower. We are being set up by a racist Republican on the board. Because someone wrote, oh my Lord, this is crazy, that they sent in for their mail-in ballots and they still have not gotten their thing in. So it's a lot going on. I don't know. I don't know. We have so much happening in this country that it makes no sense. So for the next 20 or so minutes, if you want to call in WURD listeners, the number is 215-634-8065. My next guest will be at 3 p.m. And so I'm just, giving you to call in and talk to me. Let me see. The NAACP, this was written by The Root. Zach Lindley wrote this. The NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund wants Justice Department to suspend police grants amid investigation into policing practices. Lots going on. After former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted of murdering George Floyd, Attorney General Merrick Garland announced that the U.S. Justice Department has launched an investigation into the city's police department to determine whether it engages in a pattern of practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing. In Minneapolis, the governor of Minneapolis also said this openly with Gayle King last week or the week before. I can't even remember now. The weeks are pushing in together. When Derek Chauvin was found guilty, he said Minneapolis is not a safe space for black people. I put this on my social media space and someone says America is not safe for black people. So it's interesting to see. Even though we're in leadership, we have police commissioners, we have district attorneys who are black, we have judges in the highest court of the land who are black, we have city council people who are black, with so much going on. And you heard me talking about the 1857 Dred Scott case that Michael Cord wrote about, why the judicial elections are so important. We're looking at the district attorney's election. The city controller's election is important too. The district attorney's election and the judge's elections are important. So while the investigation might seem to be a noble effort to some, the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund says, and I am paraphrasing here, nah, brah, that ain't enough. Basically, the Legal Defense Fund wants Garland and the Justice Department to take things a step further and suspend police grants to the department until the investigation is concluded and the people are satisfied. According to National Public Radio, NPR, which obtained a letter sent to the Justice Department from the Legal Defense Fund President Sherilyn Ifill, the organization wants Garland to employ Title V of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and apply it to police funding. The innovation of it was really designed to address recalcitrant southern jurisdictions that refuse to comply with Brown versus Board of Education, Ifill wrote in the letter, but it doesn't apply just to education. It essentially says that federal funds cannot be used to support local programs that engage in discrimination. And so the new letter to the Justice Department points out that police have killed at least 17 black people since Garland was confirmed as Attorney General this year, 2021, and that several of the deadly incidents occurred while the trial in Minneapolis was underway. Years of Justice Department investigations and independent research have uncovered racial discrimination in patterns of traffic stops, arrests, and even death from law enforcement agencies across the country. Every new shooting, every video brings with it an urgency to address discriminatory police conduct nationwide, said Puneet Chima, who manages the Justice and Public Safety Project at the Legal Defense Fund. And now it's not an individual officer, it's not an individual department, it's a national problem and it needs a national solution. So here we go. The Legal Defense Fund is, asking the Justice Department and asking them to suspend police grants to the department. I was sitting on a committee in Montgomery County, and I can't remember the name of it now, off the top of my head, where there was a conversation from the Justice Department around police and young people in the counties. And so I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me. But I sat in this committee, and what the Justice Department was essentially saying was, based on the amount of arrests that they were having of minorities, black and brown children in the counties versus their white counterparts, that they were going to remove some of their funding, because the police departments get a certain amount of funding every year through federal levels and through local and state levels. And so I see what the legal defense people are talking about here. I don't know if it will be enough. There will be police reform, I agree. And so, the only time will tell, and it won't happen right away, that this is just a lot going on. This just in from CBS Pittsburgh, Harrisburg. A Philadelphia judge running for a seat on Pennsylvania's highest court is disavowing any connection to QAnon, even though she did an interview with supporters of the conspiracy theory, who also listed her as a featured speaker at an upcoming gathering. Common Pleas Court Judge Paula Patrick, a black woman, sat for an interview on a YouTube and podcast show hosted by two conservative social media personalities who are organizing the event. She told the Philadelphia Inquirer on Thursday that she wasn't invited and didn't plan to attend the event in Gettysburg in June. Patrick said she thought the show was targeted to a Christian audience. By Friday, her name had been removed from the event's website. And so that's the other thing, you know, as these folks are running for offices and stuff, we have to find out who is inviting you to certain things, and not everything is for everybody. So I'm assuming Judge Paula Patrick got that through all of that was happening with her. All right, let's see now. Black bikers ride to get out the Philly vote. This was Reverend Mark Tyler of Mother Bethel AME Church organized a Black Voters Rally. This is the picture of him that I'm looking at. Kenny Cooper wrote this on May 1st. Motorcyclists from across the Mid-Atlantic region revved up for Saturday's Black Bikers Vote to rally to urge residents of Philadelphia, low turnout areas to register ahead of Monday's primary election deadline, which is today. We thought it's important that, especially within North Philly and West Philly, that young people see us, said Reverend Mark Kelly Tyler of Mother Bethel of AME Church, who organized the ride. Many of them have given up on voting, he said, and when they see African-American bikers ride through, lifting up the importance of voting, we hope that it really says to them that is something that I should reconsider. Black Bikers Vote is a nonpartisan event supported by Power Interfaith, a coalition of congregations in Pennsylvania that organizes civic engagement events. Kendra Cochran, political director of Power Interfaith, said, "We have 6 congregations that will be hosting drive-through and walk-up registration. The Church of Christian Compassion at 62nd and Cedar Streets was the gathering point and beginning of the route, with the ride ending at Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church at 2800 West Cheltenham Avenue. That starting point holds importance," Tyler said, because the Church of Christian Compassion was where the funeral of Walter Wallace Jr. took place last year after Wallace was fatally shot by police. And our very first step is right up the street. We're going to go down the 6200 block of Osage to pay respects to the families of Move, said Tyler, whose black Harley Davidson will have a large red, green, and black flag hanging off the back. And I mean, look, they've already had a really tough week, and so we think it's appropriate, being so close, to stop there first. And so, you know, again, today is the last day to register to vote. If you have never registered to vote, today is your last day. It says here in another thing here, let me just see, that in Pennsylvania you can begin voting 50 days before Election Day via mail-in ballot or at a satellite election office. That means you can cast your ballot as early as March 29th, 2021. So I am hoping that people have already begun sending in their mailing ballots. If you would like to request a mail-in ballot, you need to do it by May 11th, 2021. You can do that a variety of ways. Apply online with a valid PA's driver's license or photo ID. Apply for a mail-in ballot by mail and send it to your county elections office, or you can also apply in person at your county elections office. So much is going on here. We really need to talk about this, and I know it seems like all I'm talking about is this election, but it's around the corner, and I just don't see enough I don't see enough conversation around it. Again, on Wednesday, I'm having a conversation with all the judges in Montgomery, Philadelphia, Bucks, and Delaware County to talk to them about running for office, and these seats are very important. From KYW Philadelphia, Pat Loeb wrote this: to judge from campaign contributions in Philadelphia's Democratic District Attorney primary, the issue of whether incumbent Larry Krasner wins re-election seems of greater importance to donors outside of the state than to those within the city. Krasner has attracted about twice as many contributions and raised about twice as much money from other parts of the country as he has from city and suburbs. Challenger Carlos Vega, on the other hand, has received the vast majority of his funding from local donors. It is not surprising that Krasner would have a large amount of campaign contributions from out of Philadelphia. Founder of Ciesler Media and Issue Advocacy, that's Larry Ciesler. He is a national figure. I mean, basically the poster boy for the progressive criminal justice reform movement in the country. He was the first major city DA to be elected under that platform. People who are concerned about these issues don't want to see him lose. KYW's analysis of campaign finance reports filed within the state and city estimates that Krasner raised $106,000 from local donors and $315,000 from outside the area, including 3 foreign countries, while Vega raised $301,000 from the area and $25,000 from elsewhere. Krasner's largest contributor is San Francisco-based Real Justice PAC. It gave him $134,000 between March 15, 2020 and February 28, 2021. That's above the $12,600 maximum allowed by the city's campaign finance rules, but most of it was contributed before Krasner's re-election announcement this year. So, call me and tell me what you think about this upcoming election. Are you voting? Where have you registered to vote? Are you going to go out and vote at the polling stations, or are you going to do the mail-in ballots again? All of that is very important. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Here at JN Money, your safety is our top priority. During this time, JN Money encourages customers to send money safely and conveniently using our JN Money online service. For cash pickup, to the JN Money card, to bank accounts in Jamaica, and to pay bills directly in Jamaica. With fast, safe, and convenient services, JN Money will help you find a way. Stay safe. JN Money Services USA Incorporated, a licensed money transmitter in Connecticut, District of Columbia, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. License number FT 71415, Massachusetts Foreign Transmitter Agency.
Sankofa Freedom Academy Charter School is an African-centered public freedom school now accepting student enrollment from kindergarten through 12th grade. Visit www.sfacs.us and click the Intent to Enroll button to complete the form for the 2021-22 school year. For more information, call 215-288-2001.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. Come on out and become a WURD Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun. Call 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875. Come on out and become a WURD Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Mother's Day is on Sunday, and my husband has been asking me 1,000 times, what do you want for Mother's Day? You ever just don't want anything? You just want an experience? And so what are you all asking for Mother's Day? What are you planning to do for your wives and mothers for Mother's Day? Call me and let me know. 215-634-8065. Melissa from Northeast Philly, how are you?
Good afternoon, Andrea. How are you?
See, if everybody would just say hello. That was so good. Good afternoon. How are you, Melissa?
I am well. I popped in my car, and I heard your voice, and then I started listening to you, and I'm like, okay, she's got given some good stuff. And then I heard you read, I don't know if it was an email or a letter from one of your listeners regarding the donations coming into the Vega campaign versus the Krasner campaign.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, let me call into Andrea's show to just enlighten the listeners. Now, what the writer is not saying about the campaign donations, they're not differentiating the donations going directly to the campaign from donors versus campaign donations coming in from PACs and super PACs. That's what they left out.
Uh-huh.
So there's something that your listeners should know. Carlos Vega received $500,000 to the Protect Our Police PAC. Okay? The Protect Our Police PAC received $500,000 from Tim Mellon. Who's Tim Mellon? Well, he's a very, very, very wealthy man out of the great state of New York who donated $25 million to the Trump campaign. In fact, he was Trump's largest donor. So you would ask yourself, why would Tim Mellon give $500,000 to the Protect Our Police PAC? Well, I'll tell you why.
Melissa, you are bringing the receipts.
Yes, and it's important, too, because whatever we know, we have to share. That's why we have to work as a collective. We have to put our egos aside and our differences aside and protect each other. So this is what you need to know about Mr. Tim Mellon. He wrote his own autobiography, and in it he stated how lazy black people were and how we just sit around and receive welfare and food stamps and housing, and we're no good to society. And these are things that he wrote in his own personal autobiography and donated to the Protect Our Police PAC, John McNesby himself, who said that black people should be put down like rabid animals. So these are Carlos Vega's major donors. And let the listeners not forget that McNesby invited the Proud Boys to the FOP during a visit from Mike Pence, and they spent $1,000 there drinking. I was there. So if you want to vote for Carlos Vega, who's supported by the Proud Boys, Tim Mellon, the FOP, and John McNesby, and you're black, there's a good chance that you're voting against your own self-interest.
Wow. Wow. Melissa, at one point my mouth was wide open. This is why. Thank you so much for calling in, because we don't, all right, so I'm going to Google Tim Mellon. All right, so that's where I'm starting.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else that we need to know? Because you clearly came with all kinds of tea.
What I guess the point that I'm trying to make is when people write you things or inform you, I guess we have to ask, what is their intention? And are they giving all the details, or are they misleading us? It's no secret that Krasner has received a lot of donations from outside of the city, but so do a lot of other donors. And the thing of it is say, for example, John, he's a famous singer. My brain's going a little wonky right now. What's his name? He's black. John Legend. John Legend.
Mm-hmm.
He donated to Krasner. He doesn't live in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. Right. He went to the University of Pennsylvania. That's his alma mater. He identifies with the black struggle. So just because the dollars are coming from outside of the city, it doesn't mean that it's sinister. And let's face it, the last thing I'll leave you with is this. We saw the Lynn Abraham days in the district attorney's office, right? We saw what Seth Williams actually did in the district attorney's office, right? Right? I'm not coming at anybody. I'm only speaking facts. Krasner is the only district attorney who is prosecuting cops and exposed to all of Philadelphia that there was a do not call list of police officers. So wouldn't it behoove of white supremacists and police officers to get Krasner out, a man who stood beside ex-felons, black men, to make sure that they acclimated back in society and had an opportunity? And think about how many people he exonerated working in conjunction with the Innocence Project. That's all I want to share.
But so that's the reason why. Is that the reason why they had the softy truck out there saying he's soft on crime?
That is exactly why. Because think about this, Andrea. If your district attorney isn't prosecuting people for felonious charges, who loses out? I'll tell you who loses out. Attorneys, who the majority of attorneys, let's face it, are white men, right? So they're losing money because they're not getting cases. They're not getting all of the cases, the drug deals or the felonious stops. And think about all of the little counties around our city who use our people, extract our people out of the city and put them in state prisons. So you're losing money because the black people become the economic engines in these small towns outside of Philadelphia because they don't have any other economy, right?
Yes.
So when black people are not being arrested and charged with anything from whatever, and they're not being, prosecuted and put in jail, a lot of white people lose a lot of money because remember, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We were brought here for one reason and one reason only, to function as a commodity. And when they can no longer make money off of us, people get angry.
Wow. I don't even... Do you understand? People, someone just wrote on my thing. She said, "Good afternoon, family. Lord, this lady just spilled all the tea."
Yes,
you
ma'am.
even have me with my mouth wide open.
Because I know you bring it, Andrea. I know you bring it, sun up to sundown. So I said, well, let me call it and bring it with her.
Yeah, because this was a piece that I read from KYW. You know, and it's so interesting, which is why we talk about media journalism and making sure that we're represented on all levels, right?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
I interviewed someone from the police department last week. They're looking for new recruits and really want black and brown people to apply to join the police department. And you have to now live in Philadelphia to be a police officer. So it's we're in an interesting time, I'm telling you, Melissa. What do you think about the judicial races? Since I have you on the line and you're spilling all the tea, what do you think about the judicial races?
I'm going to spill some more tea. Now, this tea is going to be hot, so back up from the table. This is hot. Okay, so we found out that the Democratic City Committee, a.k.a. Bob Brady, because he controls everybody, did not endorse for the district attorney's race, but we saw that they put out a ballot for judges, right? Now, you all know, like I know, if you've been in politics more than 10 years, you know the players. So you might ask yourself, why is it that a man like George Twardy has been appointed to be a judge by the governor, and he's also supported by the Democratic City Committee? Why is this man on the ticket as a Democrat when he was kicked out of Delco as a Republican? He is a former GOP chairman. These people in Philadelphia knew exactly what he was, but this is the thing. If you do not educate the masses, you can control them, which is why it was illegal to educate or for black people to get any education, because as long as you don't know, you can be told anything. You can be controlled. So underfund public schools in the city of Philadelphia. Don't teach them government and politics. They'll never know. We can present them a sheep in wolf's clothing, a.k.a. George Twardy. If you look at the ticket, Democratic City Committee, it says George Twardy. Now research what he did in Delaware County as a GOP chairman. That is the perfect example of our own people not being educated enough or accepting money, in a corrupt way to do whatever is necessary to get paid. This is all about making money. This is all about making money. And I and a lot of other people will not sit by and allow our people to be hurt, used, misled, and abused, because that is what's happened to black people century after century. They use us to hurt us. And it's just not right, Andrea. It's just not right. And about the police recruiting, think about how many of our young people in the streets that watch their friends die. Think about how many 15, 16, and 17, and 19-year-olds watch their friends die, and they want to be police officers. They want to be detectives. So now ask yourself, what barriers are to produce an all-white graduating police academy? You have to think about what barriers are put in place to prevent our kids from being honest police officers and detectives and forensic specialists. That's it.
Girl. What's the offering? I'm going to need to send you an offering.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I love you. I love what you do. I've always loved you and supported all of your work. And if there's anything that I can add or share with the people that I have, there's no need in me keeping it to myself. I have to share it. We stand on too many shoulders, Andrea. We stand on too many shoulders that bled for us.
Yes, we do. And it's so funny, Melissa. People think that we're crazy. They don't know what they're talking about. And that's how I was like, man, listen. You got people are lighting up my Facebook page. Andrea said everything she's spilling has been right in the newspapers in recent weeks and months. Everything. The guy's name is George Twardy. Read Leon Williams' commentary. He said the same thing about George Twardy. So why are we... Someone says, you are right on point. She's dotting the I's and crossing the T's, honey.
Yes, ma'am. What did they used to say about black people? If you want to hide something, put it in a book. Why? Because it has been forbidden for black people to learn. What is the carrot effect is used on us time and time again. If it's glitzy and it's glittery and it's gold, flash it in their faces. We can distract them from boring old dusty books or newspapers which has the truth right there in your face. But it's not cool to read, right? We'd rather give our kids video games. Well, my children haven't received one darn video game from my coin, best believe. Not one. Not one video game. You better read. My kids ask me something, anything they ask me, I'll ask them, did you read? Did you research it? Look it up yourself. They think I'm mean. I'm not being mean. I'm just telling them, use what you have between your two ears. Read.
Come on.
Simple.
Come on. And let me tell you, it works. It works, Melissa. I did the same thing. They thought I was the craziest parent. They couldn't play video games. They could only watch 1 hour of television during the week. And, you know, they didn't get seamless time on Sunday. You should see them now, 25 and 29, doing the darn thing. Do you hear what I'm telling you? And they read and they research. And so you're absolutely right. I'm not telling folks don't do what you want to do with your children, but you get out of them what we put into them, right?
Yes,
and parenting is not an
tell
easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing. But if you put it in, what you put in is what comes tumbling back out. Trust me when I tell you.
And you said it. It's not easy to do because I'm going to tell you something. I'm not my children's favorite person. I'll tell you that right now. They love me. They love me, Andrea, but I am not their favorite person. And as far as TV, we just purchased a TV in November because of the coronavirus. But guess what? My children did not have a television growing up. I did not allow them to have a television because the television teaches you that the standard of beauty is white. They teaches you that everything that's right is white. They teach you that images of yourself are drug dealers, robbers, if it's a movie, we're the first one that killed off. So I said, you will not have any control over my children and what they learn because he who controls the content controls the mind. So this sister controlled her own content in her household.
You better come. Melissa, you have the people over here losing their mind. Someone said, I feel renewed. Thank you so much. You know what I'm going to do? You know what I want to do? I want to have you on my show before the May primary, so we can start dissecting all of these elections, right?
That would be wonderful.
What do people need to know? So I'm going to reach out to you backdoor so you can get in touch with Brianna, and let's get you on my schedule so we can have a big conversation about this, okay?
Yes,
you
ma'am.
are on
And
it, my sister.
Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your position and your platform because people learn so much from you. And I just say it's good stuff and keep it going, sis.
Thank you, my sister. You have a good one, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
right. All right, bye-bye. Whoo! Let me tell you, she woke me right up out of my seat. You know, when we're sitting on the air, we read a lot, we absorb a lot, we try to get it all in, which is why I appreciate the WURD listeners so much. They're always sending me the tea, things that I wouldn't ordinarily see, because I'm trying to do so many things at one time, and my producers can only do so much at once. So thank you so much, Andrea Manley, Robin Manley. Thank you, all of you, Bernita, Cheryl. Listen, I'm gonna have Melissa back on, honey, because we're gonna have to, as Quad would say, all the tea. What's the tea? Melissa dropped the tea today. No sugar. And it was hot. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
Hey everyone, it's Michelle Obama, and I wanted to let you know that Barack and I couldn't be more thrilled that we got our COVID-19 vaccine. This is a deadly disease, and we know the vaccine will protect us from getting really sick. It's how we'll start getting back to seeing friends and family and doing all those things we love again. So I hope you'll join me, Barack, and millions of others around the country and get your vaccine as soon as it's available to you. It's safe, it's free, and it could save your life or the life of someone you love. To learn more, just go to cdc.gov/coronavirus. I know it's been a long, hard year, but we can beat back this pandemic. With your help, we can do this.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
Philadelphia, it's State Representative Joanna McClinton. The stakes in this year's district attorney's race couldn't be higher. For decades, the DA's office devastated black communities through brutal punishment while never holding police accountable. DA Larry Krasner has changed that in just 3 short years, while his opponent spent 35 years relentlessly pushing the policies that destroyed our communities. We cannot let him take us back. We have everything to lose. We must keep moving forward. Vote now, vote early, vote Krasner for DA on May the 18th.
Paid for by Krasner for DA.
Lifting every voice
Till earth and heaven ring.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Heaven help the child who never had a home. Heaven help the girl who walks the streets alone. Heaven help the roses if the bombs begin to fall. Heaven help us all. Heaven help the black man if he struggles one more day. Heaven help the white man if he turns back away. Heaven help the man who kicks the man who has to crawl. Heaven help us all. Heaven help us all. Heaven help us all. Help us all. Heaven help us, Lord, hear our call.
Welcome back to The Source. Heaven help us all. These next two guests, I want you to anchor yourself down because Mother always tries to find the people to have the kinds of conversations that we need to have, the real tea, right? And so we're going to be talking about this topic. Najir Parks, the black man from New Jersey, who was interviewed by Ed Felton and Burnley about his imprisonment due to faulty facial recognition made it into national news on CNN. I really wanted to learn about this story because it's artificial intelligence. So Ed Felton, PhD, led President Barack Obama's artificial intelligence initiative and is currently one of 5 members of the U.S. Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board, a watchdog for civil liberties in the executive branch's counterterrorism effort, a professor of computer science at Princeton University, and the founding director of Princeton's Center for Information Technology Policy. Ed led the development of the federal government's first regulatory strategy around AI, artificial intelligence, as the White House team wrestled with the question of what role local and federal government should play in artificial intelligence. As a co-host of AI Nation, Ed breaks down complex topics to make what sounds like science fiction meaningful to the average listener. Malcolm Burnley, multimedia journalist Malcolm Burnley, is a self-described sci-fi geek. I can't wait to talk to the both of them. With a passion for social justice, his investigative and narrative work has appeared in Time, Politico, and Philadelphia Magazine. A regular contributor to WHYY and Plan Philly, he co-hosted the Why podcast. Yes! Yes! Okay, I know you. Okay. Good afternoon. Let me just go ahead and come on over here and talk to the both of you. Good afternoon, sirs. How are you?
Hi, Andrea. It's great to see you. Excited to be on.
Yes.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to the both of you. So listen, I saw this fact sheet and I almost fell out. Hold on. For AI. Most Americans have heard the term AI or artificial intelligence. Few understand its impact on their everyday lives. Explain that to us, Dr. Felton. Tell us why AI is so impactful in our lives today.
AI has quietly gotten into a lot of the systems that we deal with, and it's something that a lot of the companies that are building the economy we have to live in, are using. So you see it sometimes really visibly if you're using, say, automated navigation. If you're in social media, the what you see is really determined by an AI algorithm. It decides which of your friends' posts, which of the political posts there you're going to see, what you're not going to see, what order. And it's being used. It's being used in law enforcement. That's what happened to Nigeria Parks. It's being used by big companies. It's being used by companies to do things like decide pricing and employee scheduling and all kinds of things.
And you know, one of the things that I hear people saying all the time, like they would have a conversation with someone on the phone about, let's say, Depends diapers. They turn on Facebook and an ad for Depends diapers show up. And I don't think people realize how prevalent AI is in our everyday lives, right?
Right. There's so much information about us and what we do that's getting collected all the time. And that just feeds into this giant AI ecosystem that is creating what gets offered back to us. You know, those ads or those posts, we're seeing them for a reason. It's because this machine exists.
So the two of you came together for in part because of Mr. Parks. Can you tell us how did you learn about his story, and do you both ascribe to AI? Do you think it's a good thing, or is it, are you questioning it?
I'll jump in, Andrea, and again, thanks for having us on. Najir's story, read about it initially actually in the press, and was able to reach out to him through his lawyer. It was a shocking example of artificial intelligence being used in policing. And one thing that Ed can definitely elaborate on, one thing I learned in doing this podcast, especially as the kind of novice on the topic, Ed being more of the expert, was learning how much police is already using this, but then more importantly, the lack of transparency. We don't even fully know to what degree police departments all across the country are using this. We know that it is being used, but specifically with facial recognition, Najir's story was really alarming. Just to give you the 30-second version, he was a man in New Jersey, was picked up, or he found out that he had a warrant out for his arrest related to a shoplifting charge, and then also a vehicle assault on a police vehicle. Najir didn't know anything about this. He decided to go to the police department in New Jersey to try to clear the matter up. And next thing he knows, he is arrested and thrown in jail by faulty facial recognition. And it was really alarming. And there was a number of things in the story in Najir's case that should have been red flags. For example, he didn't have a driver's license at the time. He didn't fit the description in a number of ways as the suspect, and yet the computer algorithm and the facial recognition algorithm showing up really showed that we can rely on this technology even if we don't know its efficacy. So Najir, him being one example, AI, I think it's too broad to think about it as either good or bad, or we should or shouldn't use it. It's in different fields, in different facets, it might be used for good. In other ways, with the wrong people behind the wheel, it could be used for bad.
AI has been around for a while now. There's still some people who don't understand what artificial intelligence does. Mr. Felton, Dr. Felton, I was reading an article about people who worked for Facebook and Google who talked about how artificial intelligence is so frightening to them on some levels. Many of them have just decided that they can't do it anymore. There are things that we don't know in the general public around artificial intelligence. Why did President Obama start this group that you're a part of, this contingency that you're a part of?
Sure. So, he recognized that AI was starting to come into a lot of the things that matter a lot to us, and that the government hadn't really looked at it and didn't have a strategy. And so, we were kind of overdue to figure out how is this changing our lives, and what should government do about it? Which things should it be doing? Which should it be not be doing? And what could the federal government do to try to influence this, to try to influence what's happening in local police departments and other places? And so he tasked me and a team of people to figure it out and to make some recommendations.
Yeah. And so what should the average person, I'm asking both of you this now, what should the average person know about AI and how it's impacting their lives. I had to travel a couple of weeks ago, and I automatically knew AI was used the minute I stepped in front of that. Yes,
Yes.
It's the most amazing thing. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it makes you feel, at least the first time I experienced that, I was running late for a flight. This was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, running late for a flight, really thought I was going to miss it. And they were like, if you could basically cut the line if you use this facial recognition where they get your eyes. And I was, understandably really skeptical, but the convenience factor, I wound up using it to get on to make the flight.
See, and you see Mr. Felton's face. So at the hospital,
there
they
you
tell
go.
us if they can scan our palm, then I don't have to ever fill out anything else. And I was like, nope, not doing that. You don't get to scan my palm.
Your palm, right. So you might not put your palm onto that scanner, but you are walking around in the airport with your face, and people can take pictures of it, right?
Yes.
You get in these databases sometimes whether you want it or not.
Dang. So let's talk about the insurrection on January 6th and how they used AI at the airport to shut quite a few people down. What were you do? All right, let me ask you this: do either one of you believe in the efficacy of AI, that it could be something worthwhile if used properly, or do you think it's something that's going down a dangerous path over time?
I mean, I think it's definitely something that's worthwhile if it's used with care. But we need to pay attention to it and make sure that it's not overused or it's not used in places where it gets really dangerous.
So
and I think,
give us an example, Mr. Felton, when you
sure.
say using places that are really dangerous, because the average person hearing artificial intelligence probably is like, what does that mean to my life? Our cell phones, everything we use.
Yeah, so I mean, a good example is what happened to Najir Parks. He was, he hadn't done anything wrong, and because some AI algorithm said his face looked like the face of someone who did commit these offenses, he ended up getting arrested, spending time in jail, just because of an AI mistake.
Yeah, but how much time did he spend in jail? Because that's crazy. He shouldn't have spent
10 days. Yeah, and he's now suing, and there's a lawsuit out to, both get some form of compensation for this, but also to, make people put the police departments on notice that they're using this.
Yeah. So, the police obviously ought to be trying to figure out who committed crimes, and they should be looking at the evidence that's out there. And if there's a picture of the person who did it, it makes sense for them to use it. But what they shouldn't be doing is putting someone in jail for 10 days based on just what comes out of some algorithm.
Right.
And Andrea, I can't hear you.
Did you lose me? Can you hear me, Dr. Felton?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Malcolm.
I was just going to jump in and to the question of, whether it could be, good or bad, or what do people have to know? I mean, I think one of the things I learned over the course of doing the podcast and learning from a number of experts on the topic is that there's this term called automation bias, which we saw in Najir's case, which I think is that, people assume a computer is either smarter or is not going to be biased, right? Like humans are. But the computers can be flawed in all the same ways that humans, can make the same mistakes with respect to bias being kind of baked into some of these algorithms, baked into facial recognition. One thing that we do already know is that because a lot of the data sets are trained more on white faces, it's actually worse at identifying people of color. And that can be really problematic in a number of ways. And so, there's ways, I think, to improve it, improve the technology with respect. We also might just end up determining, though, that in certain areas, such as policing, maybe there aren't positive uses for this. But for example, in medicine, we looked at how in the pandemic, it was able to accelerate vaccine development. And in the future, it could really accelerate vaccine development. So, there's a lot of positive cases, I think, that people can probably take from the past year, as well as a lot of, unfortunately, frightening, but there's that balance.
What does the average person need to know, though, about artificial intelligence? Because you talked about the vaccines. They were like, oh, my God, they've been planning this for years and years and years, and they knew this virus, and they put the virus out here, and all these things. What does the average person needs to know about artificial intelligence in layman's terms so that it makes sense to them?
I mean, I think you talked a little bit about it before, that there is this giant system which is collecting all kinds of information about us and then using it usually with the goal of marketing stuff back to us. But all this information gets collected, and and part of the world that we see, especially when we're online, is really built around some AI system's idea of who we are and what will get us to buy stuff. Just like recognizing that, especially online, what we see is chosen, curated, I guess people would say, by some algorithm that's always watching us.
But who puts the algorithm together, though?
A lot of the companies, and I think that's what, Ed's point is really sound, because, so within this capitalist structure, I think, again, if we think about AI as being relatively neutral, right? A human has to design it to do something. And I think that's a great point, Andrea, because, if we wanted to use these for different purposes, to not necessarily to market, to make a profit, we could see a lot more positive uses for them. But the fact that, they are very complicated, very resource intensive to create these, often it's going to be, governments, large companies, large institutions. And so just questioning what the motives are behind it and being aware that, of who's creating it is probably one of the most important things.
Is there anything that the average consumer can do to remove themselves as much as possible from the AI algorithm? I have to ask. Is there anything that the average person can do?
There are some things you can do. Some of the services have opt-outs. There are things you can do to say preserve my privacy, turn off targeted ads, etc. All that, and that helps some. One of the big things you can do is ask questions. If you're out in a public space, if you're out in a store or something, there are cameras there. The question is, like, what happens with the images captured by that camera? Is there just some security person who's looking at it and then it goes away? Or does it all get captured and archived and sort of analyzed to try to recognize you when you come back? Like what's behind what's behind the cameras, what's behind the sensors? Where do the records about you go?
You know why I'm sitting back and looking at you like this? Some years ago, maybe about 15 years ago, I got an email from TJ Maxx, someplace I just don't shop. And they said to me, we wanted to apologize for somebody thought that something, which was weird, that it was a chain letter to a bunch of black people, in essence, right? That were being targeted as they walked into these stores. And I said to myself back then, what in the Sam Hill are they using? You just clicked me, because they're coming, the cameras are there, right? Wherever we walk into. And if we're frequenting a place, this is why I tell folks all the time, cameras are everywhere. But how are they using that information, right? Okay, so that's one way to opt out. All right, so but if you ask them that question, Dr. Felton, do they have to answer us?
No, they don't necessarily have to answer. I mean, you walk in, so at that point, you have a choice. If they won't answer the question, you're not satisfied with it. Right. You either don't go there anymore, or you say, well, I can't really do that. And you just hope for the best. Because you don't quite have the power to stop it in most cases, right? You can just say, I don't want this. I'm your customer, and please stop.
Right.
And you get what you get from that.
Right. And Malcolm, what advice would you have for people who think they would like to be able to opt out of AI? Because clearly we can't on many levels.
Right. I mean, more and more elected officials we are seeing are asking, I think, these questions, and there's probably going to be more and more, hearings over the next few years about the use of AI and all sorts of facets, policing being one of them. So I think, that's one huge aspect. We've been seeing, Apple making it much easier to opt out, as Ed was saying. Yes. That also being hugely important. And I mean, I think, also I know it just gets back to awareness, because we know there's been so many technological movements or technological, fields or studies that aren't proven over, or they're proven over some period of time. And in that proving stage, we have to be very aware of what we are touting them to be, what type of rights we are giving up. And so I think we're in that stage right now. And that's one big thing that we showed in the podcast. We're not always aware of it, but we need to be more aware that this is that time where it's getting integrated. And honestly, it's probably too late to say we're going to stop doing this completely.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. What was the most interesting guest you had around artificial intelligence? Because there's so much to talk about, right?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in real quick and then I'll let take it. I mean, you know, on the positive end, we spoke to some physicists who, without getting into all the technical terms, I probably couldn't re-explain it that as well as they did on the show, but about this one problem in physics for the last 75 years, basically. A number of Nobel Prizes has been awarded just to the incremental stages of trying to solve this, and AI did it. You know, AI did it in is able to, it's called the protein folding problem, and it's able to see the sequence, the shape of a protein. And, you know, it takes scientists entire careers to create the shape of one protein or to discover it. And now AI can do it in a matter of minutes. Wow. And so we spoke to one scientist who was just explaining this, and it was really astonishing to see just that level of advancement. And that does have really practical implications for medicine. So that was quite interesting.
Right. And you, Dr. Felton?
Well, so you see that really positive step, huge steps forward on a problem that's really important for healthcare. And then you see applications of AI in other settings. You know, we talked about the use of AI in policing, for example, where we have not seen anything like that kind of progress. We've seen police departments use AI more, and we talked to me, one of the interesting guests was a man who had worked in building AI tools for policing and then had tried to sort of step back and say, how can we do this better in a way that's more fair and more open? I think it's fair to say he tried to do that and found the going difficult.
And that's what I'm hearing from a lot of the programmers from, Google and Facebook and those places. They're watching AI just completely bloom, and they're not sure that, and they're seeing how it's impacting people's lives and not always for the better. And so they have questions around that. Audrey Parker says, it seems the more I opt out of text and email, the more new things pop up. How do we stop the info share? I'm going to take a quick break, and then you can answer that for me. Can you please? Okay. If you can. All right. Hold on one second, please. Are you looking for a job? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal featuring jobs from some of Philadelphia's leading companies and arts organizations. If you go to the portal right now, you will see jobs from WURD Radio, the Kimmel Center, Her Foods, Always Best Care, and more. Apply for a job today. Go to our livelihood website at wordworks.com and click jobs. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on wordradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is the number to call in. We will be right back after these messages.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
The Black Words Book Club. WURD Radio's monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for May is Living in Color by Tommy Davidson. Be sure to listen live as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it. Tuesday, May 11th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for WURD members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on wordradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
If you are just joining us, welcome back to The Source. If you're just joining us, we're talking about artificial intelligence and how it is embedded in every aspect of our lives. I have two fascinating people here, Malcolm Burnley and Ed Felton, who run a podcast around artificial intelligence, and they've been interviewing lots of great folks around it. We are now going to delve into, and my God, and it literally, people, it's not something you can opt out of right about now, because it's been so embedded in our lives. And when we thought Facebook and YouTube and all of them were just great tools, we didn't realize that artificial intelligence was what was creating a lot of this, and that they were using algorithms to decide what we would see, where we would go, all kinds of things. I mean, we're being targeted for our shoes, our clothing, where we will go on vacation. They know everything about us, right? Every time we sign a bill, use our credit cards, every time we use our phones, artificial intelligence is a part of this. And so they have just been, this is a riveting conversation, I got to tell you. This is, wow. Wow. And so we want to talk about how AI, artificial intelligence, affects black and brown people in society. So welcome back, gentlemen, to The Source. This one woman says, it seems the more I opt out of text and email, the more new things pop out. How do we stop the info share? Or can we?
You can't stop it all the way, right? It's so easy and cheap for people to send you stuff. And if they think it might work, you know, if they think there's even a tiny chance it's going to work and get you to buy something, get you to pay attention to whatever it is they want you to look at, they'll keep sending it. Right. So you can opt out. That's a signal you can send them. You can make sure that you don't click through that stuff, because, right, you want to send every signal you can that you're not interested, you don't want to see it. And then hope that the algorithm will decide that you're just not a good prospect for it. But there's no guarantee.
Okay, so that's how the algorithm works. So there used to be a time when your phone number was private.
Right, not anymore.
Right? So I get these random text messages every once in a while, and you're right, I don't click into them, I just go into my info and just delete it, right? Just block it. So that would be the algorithm that tells them I'm not interested, and so I will get less and less of these as time goes on, correct?
You hope, yeah. Problem is, it's still getting cheaper and easier for them to do it. So, you know, there's more and more coming along. You're brushing it off, and you know, your phone is still buzzing all the time.
Right. So let's talk about artificial intelligence and the biases for black and brown people, how that can impact our lives. I am sitting on the Governor's Commission of Law Enforcement, and they had to do a background check. They called me and they were like, we saw this, and I'm like, who are these people and what are you talking? It was so weird. And they said, we knew it wasn't you. We just had to ask you. But you're right. People it's so easy now to get people caught up in stuff. And as a black woman, I was like, oh, no, that wasn't me. Nope, didn't hear that. No, I didn't live in that state. No, it was, you know, so people are using artificial intelligence in really nefarious ways. What are you seeing? What are you hearing about artificial intelligence and how it impacts black and brown people in a way that is just not good?
Well, I'll just jump in really quick. I mean, we've been talking about policing, and I'll give a hypothetical example that could be a real life example. Again, you know, one of the big things we found out, we don't always know. There's a lot of black boxes. We don't always know completely how companies are using this. But one concept is around artificial intelligence is that it relies on data that's already out there. And so if you think about it in policing, for example, you know, using arrest data about, say, neighborhoods across the city. And if they were going to, in theory, a police department wanted to make decisions about where to deploy resources, if it's already using the data about, you know, say which neighborhoods were over policed, there's going to be more data about those neighborhoods, and therefore it could kind of reinforce the same type of bias or mistake that was originally made. And another example, you know, could be we think about things like bank loans. Well, if there's more data about, you know, a bank giving more loans to non-people of color, or people of color are less likely to be awarded those, then, you know, an algorithm could reproduce those same type of bias. And so I think that's a big issue when it comes to, we have to make sure that we are designing these systems for different outcomes, because otherwise if it's just based on historical outcomes, we already know, all the bias that exists in the country and in a lot of systems.
Dr. Fulton, would you like to add to that in any way?
Well, I mean, I think Malcolm basically hit it on the head. You see bias coming in because AI systems are told to do things like we did them before.
Right.
Right. You give the system a lot of examples of how decisions that the organization made before, and you ask the AI figure out how to do more of that.
Right.
So, right, and so a lot of these organizations have been biased in their past decisions. Right. You have problems because people of color are underrepresented in the data that the system's there. There's not as many black faces in the data set that's used for training facial recognition, for example. And so you end up with an algorithm that's less accurate for black faces.
So can I tell you how frightening that is for us, though? It is absolutely frightening for us. And when you will live your life in a way where you've done all the right things, what recourse do we have if we are targeted accidentally or through bias? What recourse do we have? I'm asking that question because it's happening more and more in our lives.
Right. Well, I mean, unfortunately, it seems like it has to almost be as an extreme example of what happened to Niger, and then now he's suing, but that doesn't make up for the fact that, he was in jail for 10 days. And frankly, the thing that was scariest about his story was that he was let out on a new bail law in New Jersey, which then allowed him to prove his innocence. If he hadn't been let out on the bail law, there's reason to believe he would have either been locked up longer, or he may have never been able to prove the wrongful arrest in the first place. So, the idea, I guess, the underlying idea there is that, we didn't know that facial recognition was being used to that degree until a case like his comes along. And that's fair to say it's frightening.
Yeah. So, there are a bunch of things that can happen to make these things better. Okay. They're not going to happen automatically, right? Okay. But, in a case like his, just don't arrest somebody based only on what an algorithm says, right? That's not so complicated. But then, there are things that people can do when they're building these algorithms to try to make them less biased, right? It starts with watching out for, do we have the right representation in the data set to make sure that communities of color actually are going to be treated more accurately by this algorithm? If we're using past decisions or past human behavior as the guide to the AI, what are we doing to make sure that we're compensating for the bias that we know is there? Right. So there are things that can be done, but they don't happen automatically. It requires the people who are doing the engineering to really take care and pay attention to this thing. And it requires everyone to generate the pressure and the political will to make them do that. And and as you know, it's not easy to unbias a biased system.
Right, because it's people that are putting in the algorithms. Let me give you an example. I read an article last week about physicians who are using an algorithm around giving medical care to black and brown people, right? So like for diabetes and the way we are weighed and that kind of stuff. It's so biased that we literally have to go into the doctor's office and say, look at the whole person. Look at me in totality. Don't just throw a bunch of medicine my way. Help me to figure out how I can live a better life. And they'll say, well, this is what the data says about black people. Literally, we've had doctors say, this is what data says about black people. We're using this algorithm. And so it feels like we are in this place of, we can barely move from one side to the next because there are algorithms and data put in place that keeps us kind of stuck. We have to constantly fight just to take a gasp of air, and to have AI in the middle of all of this, which is telling folks that, yep, everything you're thinking about these black and brown folks, absolutely true. Here it is on the computer screen, even about the way we shop, even about our earning potential, even about where we can go to school. Are you kidding me? That's a lot to absorb.
Right, it being used in an exploitative way. And yeah, I mean, again, it's so many systems, that's just how they function, right? I mean, it's the cynic in me, but, thinking about capitalist structures and, how to extract something from the consumer, right? Or, as you're saying, in ways like that. Yeah, it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to consider. I mean, again, the awareness, the fight for transparency, those are all going to be, I think, huge steps in the years to come, so that hopefully we can get as many benefits of AI as possible out of this, rather than, you know, all the potential missteps that you're outlining.
Yeah. How can, literally, so you have a limited series podcast called AI Nation. How can we get AI right before it goes terribly wrong? Do you both not think that it's already going terribly wrong?
Certainly in some respects. There's definitely examples, as we said, for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the social media and the polarization of that. Where do you see AI playing a role in it? You know, the average and I'm telling you, you know, the average person has so much going on in their lives. They don't really fully recognize the role that AI is playing in what they see on social media, who responds to them, how many people actually see their posts, and on and on and on. What can we do? I keep asking you this question, but I feel like the card has already left. It's gone, right? And we're trying to find ways to minimize it. What role do you think the federal government should play and is playing in mitigating what it costs us as citizens of this country?
Well, so, I mean, part of the issue with social media is that you go on a social media place and you have friends or people you follow, and they are forwarding and clicking and saying a lot more things than you can even read. And so there's some algorithm that's picking out which of those things it's going to show to you and in what order. And it's doing it to pick the stuff that will get you to click, will get you to stay on the site, will get you to buy stuff.
Yes.
So it's building a model of you and trying to figure out what is going to get you, what is going to push your buttons and get you to respond. Right? So if you have a person who's, let's say, prone to political extremism, it may sort of push their buttons and get them to go more in that direction. Right? Somebody who just wants to see pictures of their friends, you know, of their friends' kids, you might see more of that, if that's what you're responding to. Right? So this idea that it's building a world that isn't necessarily what you want, but what will get you to stay on the site, is like really important. So it's a mirror that's kind of showing back to you what it thinks you will respond to. And so you at least have that power to choose what you respond to try to be the kind of person that you want. So to sort of ask for the kind of stuff that you want to see, right? So you have some power there. Now that doesn't help with somebody who gets radicalized, who's you know, attacking the Capitol because of stuff they saw on social media. And that's where you have to ask, what is the right role for the government? Right? Because we don't want the government just saying what people can say online or what people can say. But at the same time, you know, what are they going to do to keep things from getting out of hand, and what is going to happen to keep the companies accountable for the choices that they make?
Malcolm, would you like to add something to that?
I mean, I think, again, I feel like I'm a broken record in some respects, just talking about transparency, but Ed is in part, you know, really helped me see that, you know, just getting, there's a role for government, I think, to be not just asking the questions, but at least over time, I think making fewer of those black boxes that I described, so that consumers at least know not only how to protect themselves, but more importantly, just how they're being influenced or changed, so that people aren't under the impression of being on a Facebook or being on a Twitter or an Instagram and thinking, oh, this is just what my friends are posting, you know, and instead being aware that it is a much more curated experience. And in that, there's potential drawbacks and potential benefits too, at least to the company.
So most Americans, this is about this podcast, AI Nation, which I'm not going to listen to because, Lord have mercy, I think there's something to it. Most Americans have heard of artificial intelligence, yet few understand how it is already impacting their social media feeds, the way they travel, or the way they are treated by the police. A new limited series podcast produced by WHYY and Princeton University takes a look at the impact of AI on Americans' lives with the goal of helping individuals make informed decisions about how they want to let AI into their lives and where they want to protect themselves. We think of AI as the stuff of science fiction, like a robot apocalypse. But if you put AI together with the computer and internet revolutions, we are at a major turning point in our history. And AI is no longer science fiction, said Princeton professor Ed Felton, co-host of the new podcast and former U.S. Chief Technology Officer under President Obama. The 5-episode program, AI Nation, unites Felton, the founding director of Princeton University's Center for Information Technology Policy, with multimedia journalist Malcolm Burnley, a sci-fi geek who reports about social justice to create the type of relevant storytelling public radio is known for to demystify AI. I have a question for you, Malcolm.
Yes, please.
Star Trek or Star Wars? You better answer.
Oh no, that's I'm gonna alienate at least half of the audience.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
All right, this is big. This fingers crossed. I know my answer, but I'm wondering what your reaction is. I'm a Star Wars.
Uh-oh. Wrong answer.
I am a Trekkie. I am such a Star Trek fan.
So I think with respect to one thing I've definitely learned over the course of this podcast is that Star Trek is way more insightful, I think, in terms of thinking about technology and a lot of the real problems.
Yes.
Star Wars maybe is a little more folklore-y. So I do respect that choice, and more people I've talked to, I got to check out Star Trek better.
You must. Oh my God, the things that they were talking about are stuff now that we're seeing in 2021. They were talking about it way back then, and it really lights up your neurons. And Worf was just adorable, you know. Thank you so much. When does AI Nation come on WHYY?
The easiest way would be to either go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I should say, Stitcher, anywhere where you get your podcasts, and just search for AI Nation. All 5 episodes will be up there, and you can listen to them on demand anytime.
Okay, are you going to continue? You should continue beyond 5 episodes. We would love
Fingers
you to,
crossed.
because there's so much for us
We
to
hope so.
learn. I do, and I think there's so much more that we can teach listen to me. I'm learning too. There's so much more the general public, the average person in America can understand about how every single thing we do is impacted by AI. The vaccine process, you know, when COVID-19 came out, the being online on the internet, going into the doctor's office, walking through the airport, for God's sake, you know, all of that is impacted by the things that we say and do. So I want to thank you both so much for being on the air with me today. It was a great conversation, and I hope AI Nation continues.
Oh, thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thanks for having us on.
Oh, you're welcome, gentlemen. Bye-bye. Live long and prosper. Have a good one. Bye-bye. All right, bye-bye. You are listening to The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, streaming live on WURDradio.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at onWURD. 215-634-8065 is a number to call in. Bree, I see that you called in, honey. Just hold on for mother. We will be right back after these messages.
Hello, this is Councilmember Isaiah Thomas urging you to vote for Judge John Padova on May 18th to keep this distinguished judge on the Court of Common Pleas. In addition to myself, he is also supported by State Senator Tony Williams, as well as State Senator Vincent Hughes, Representatives Joanne McClinton and Jordan Harris, as well as former Governor Ed Rendell and many others. Judge Padova is highly recommended by the Bar Association and endorsed by the Black clergy, as well as a lot of our local unions. For fairness, equity, and compassion, vote Judge Padova for all Philadelphians.
This is Judge Padova, and I approve this message.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
Undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
You're listening to The Source with Andrea Lawful Sanders on WURD Radio. Streaming live on WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Welcome back to The Source. Before I take Bree, Cheryl Brown, it's your birthday, honey. I'm going to sing for you like Miss Lou. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you, my darling. Happy birthday. I sing along now. Happy. See, you get it. This is not the Stevie Wonder version. You got this in the Jamaican version, honey. Happy birthday, darling. Enjoy your day. All right, Bree, how are you, honey?
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. What's going on?
I just want to make a comment about the AI conversation. I didn't hear the entire conversation, but to me it seems like a lot of the cameras are in disproportionately in Black and brown and poor communities, and including street cameras. I see more and more street cameras in poor neighborhoods, and I just thought that was unfair. But I was going to ask them about that if they had information and data on the percentage of cameras in Black and brown neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods.
Yeah. You
And
know what?
also,
Reach out to them.
On the other hand, I think, and I also wanted to ask them, but I know they're off now.
Yes.
Is that if for our personal computers, like anything with a camera, including cars, I was going to ask for TVs, smart cars, and personal computers. Is that the same thing? Like, is that AI? I'm assuming that it is, but I want to ask them, was that the same thing? And
you know what, Bree? I'm going to invite them back on so we can talk more, get more in depth with it. My husband is an engineer, and for the longest time, so we don't use Alexa in here. We wouldn't have smart TVs. He was like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah, because
it records everything.
Yeah. Okay. That's all. I just wanted to make a comment. I think it's going to be disproportionately in poor and Black and brown communities. So I don't think it's fair, but I don't know. I'd love to know what we can do about it.
You know what, Bree? Can you reach out to them at WHYY? Reach out to them at WHYY and see if they can answer that question for you, especially Dr. Felton, who has been at this with Obama's White House. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye. Aw, look at this. And these were on the street. She made a point, though. And I would say to my husband, when we would buy cars, my husband would say, I want something that is the least technologically advanced. I need a regular car. He said, because those computers read everything. My Divomobile, if you get into a car accident, there's a box in the car that I can't put my hands on, that it will tell you how fast you were going, who did the impact first. Oh, these cars are amazing. You see that the Tesla is driving and parking itself and driving the people. So the advancement in technology is really growing. I hope before I leave this earth that cars are flying and I'll be able to fly one. That's a dream of mine, right? But I'm a big Trekkie fan, and so all of this stuff is coming to the forefront. And my husband would say, nope, we don't want this. Nope, we don't want that. And I'm going, but all this technological advancement, can a sister have something? He's like, nope, because I know what these things can do. But you have to live with someone or who knows what artificial intelligence is all about and how it uses our data to a certain extent. So, and it's everywhere now. It's absolutely everywhere now. So you all are ready for this? Now, this is not local news. Well, it's local news. My husband says, Star Wars, he's permanently banned from your show. Poor Malcolm Burnley. Listen to this, y'all. And I don't know if anyone's talking about this yet. A Picasso drawing goes missing while being transported to Philadelphia by Sam Britt of Billy Penn. An original charcoal drawing of Pablo Picasso has gone missing while being transported from Connecticut to Philadelphia, according to Billy Penn. The drawing, titled Woman with Mandolin, was given to the client's great-grandfather by Picasso himself during a studio visit in Paris. The work was being transported in mid-April along with about 20 other privately owned works from Greenwich, Connecticut to Philadelphia. The client, who wishes to remain anonymous, wants to furnish his apartment in the city that he used on business trips. Well, he must be really rich. The art shipped from Greenwich on April 17th and remained in the truck in an undisclosed warehouse in South Philadelphia until around April 26th. To the client's knowledge, there were no signs of forced entry. A $10,000 reward is being offered for the return of the piece. The client has retained 2 private investigators in Greenwich and Philadelphia to find the missing drawing. Oh, my Lord. So there's a Picasso missing. It's always something going on in these streets. Let me see what else is happening here. This just in. DeSantis signs bill banning vaccine passports order, canceling local COVID rules. The Miami Herald wrote this, Mary Ellen Klass. Declaring Florida's COVID-19 emergency over, Governor Ron DeSantis on Monday signed an executive order invalidating all remaining local emergency COVID orders and signed a bill into law that bars businesses, schools, and government entities across Florida from asking anyone to provide proof of COVID-19 vaccination. I think it's the evidence-based thing to do, DeSantis said at St. Petersburg restaurant, where he signed the bill with House Speaker Chris Sprowls and Senate President Wilton Simpson at his side. In Florida, by the way, I've been there now twice in the last month. And all the restaurants are at 100% capacity. People are doing what they want because of, what's happening with their elected officials there. And so travel at your own risk. Be careful. Wear your mask. Whether you're vaccinated or not, do what you need to do. Follow common sense is what I'm going to say to you, right? Follow what the CDC tells you and follow common sense around staying safe. Because there's so much still happening out here, and we need to be very aware and not just take it for granted, right? My husband says biased programmers can insert biased programs. That's true. Let me see what else is new here. Let's see. Pennsylvania is home to alarming numbers of extremists, and some are our neighbors. This was written on May 1st by a guest editor by Josh Shapiro and Shira Goodman. Wow. On January 6th, armed insurrectionists attacked the U.S. Capitol, and the world learned what we already knew. Domestic extremists present a serious, credible, dangerous threat to our democracy and to all Americans. We can find the seeds of that threat right here in Pennsylvania. We are one of the states with the highest number of residents arrested as a result of the insurrection at the Capitol. These numbers are alarming, but we are encouraged that now, more than any other time in recent memory, Pennsylvanians acknowledge this threat and want to know how we can protect against it. The threat is not new. This has been a persistent and growing problem through our entire history. On October 27, 2018, a white supremacist motivated by anti-Semitism and xenophobia murdered 11 people at the Tree Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. The attack fit a pattern of increasing violence, and law enforcement has noted an increase in extremist-related terror plots of attacks over the year before. Pennsylvania is home to ongoing extremist activity, which can threaten to boil over into violence and unrest. White supremacists have increasingly engaged in propaganda efforts in recent years, with the numbers of flyering and stickering incidents more than doubling every year since 2016. In 2020, extremists hosted at least 8 in-person events in Pennsylvania, the most in the last 5 years. These included protests and flash demonstrations, white power concerts, and private SWAT sticker burnings, similar to the cross burnings popular with groups like the KKK. In one notable incident, approximately 15 individuals associated with the National Socialist Movement, a neo-Nazi group, marched through Brandon Park in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, carrying flags with SWAT stickers during their national meeting. So, for those of us who have consistently had this conversation, it has it's a problem, and it's a huge problem here, right here in Pennsylvania, and we need to pay attention to it. Audrey Parker says, my big takeaway from this 60-minute story is the bulk of car ships are made by one company in Taiwan. I can't look at that right now because I'm on the air. So we have a few minutes left on The Source today. I want to thank Michael, my technical producer, the most. Thank Brianna for making sure that my guests are, on and doing what they need to do. There's something else that I wanted to read to you all. Dogs are training to sniff out COVID-19 at the University of Pennsylvania's Working Dog Center. This was written by Sarah Gantz, published on May 1st. Toby and Tuka burst through the door of Penn Veterinary Working Dog Center, ears perked, tails wagging, and ready to go. They are not here to play. Toby, a 2-year-old small Munsterlander with silky fur the color of dark chocolate, and Tuka, a 7-year-old mutt from Austria, are training for an important mission: learn how to sniff out an invisible illness that can spread quickly even before carriers show any symptoms. With more sensitive noses than humans, dogs like Toby and Tuka have trained at the University of Pennsylvania Working Dog Center to sniff out all sorts of things: bombs, illegal drugs, bed bugs, and low blood sugar in people with diabetes. There is even a corgi training to detect nasal cancer. Now researchers are teaching dogs to detect COVID-19. The skill could be used to screen for asymptomatic carriers of the coronavirus at airports, sporting events, schools, pretty much any place you have large gatherings where everyone can go through one door, said Cindy Otto, director of the Working Dog Center. The applications are promising, but training dogs to detect a disease like COVID-19 isn't easy. Explosives, illicit drugs, human remains, and other physical things dogs can be trained to find have a scent humans can smell too. It is easy to know when the item has been found because both dog and trainer can see it. Researchers have found that illnesses and medical conditions are also associated with distinct scents, but only the dogs can smell them. A preliminary study by Penn found that COVID-19 does indeed have a unique scent that dogs are able to identify. In the study, which began last summer, 9 dogs, 8 Labrador Retrievers, and Belgian Malinois, with no previous experience with medical detection, identified samples from people who tested positive for COVID-19 with a 96% accuracy. The test subjects' age, gender, or race didn't matter. The dogs could hunt down signs of the virus. And so here we go. We are really, things are really ramping up out here. We got artificial intelligence on one side, 3D printing machines on the other side, and now dogs detecting and sniffing out COVID-19, whether you know you have it or not. Coming up next is Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.